of expensive.
So what are some of the generations?
Not that we're gonna go. Right, I don't know the names of. I just know they're kind of like off. Not on the TV, yeah, like on Bill Street and stuff. I mean, that's just part of it. But then if you kind of go off, and you've done little side.
Kenny, another way of making my notes, reading all the emails with. Oh, yeah. Just in case I might forget. Emails and messages. Yeah.
If we get on the trolley, would that take us around?
Yeah.
Which trolley would you ride though? I guess we could ask them that.
In case you haven't noticed,
Yeah, get on them.
I know.
They'll come back. Just remember where you got on.
How many did I tell you? Four? All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Are we in the paper?
No, this is from Brunswick.
Oh,
We
okay.
went to Brunswick.
We had,
Oh.
we crashed a press conference yesterday with the young ladies. They had a voting registration, press conference with the county, the Shelby County officials, the City of Memphis officials, NAACP, the 100 Black Men, and an assortment of other groups. And, I heard about it at the last minute, stopped the tour, had the bus take us to the site of the press conference, put them in front of the line directly behind the speakers, and then went and introduced myself to the county supervisor and told him we were there. And the sun shone brightly on their crowns as they stood behind every speaker that came up with 3 TV cameras in front of them. So we should have been on the news last night, just to not have time to check. And
Did it
somebody-
work at, but this ain't all press, it's good press.
Yep. Yeah, someone will be asking, and since I was advised by somebody in the city office, someone will have the answer of who we were and what we were there for. We tried to line up an interview for him, but we didn't have quite enough time for that part.
Dee, what is
Okay.
Charlotte's, phone
Well,
number?
we're gonna get started in about 2 minutes.
702.
619 0071.
Got it. She wanted me to send her the PayPal.me link so folks could pay for the book
Yeah, okay.
directly, and I found it inside of an email. So that way she can have it right at her fingertips.
Thank you.
Okay.
And we do have another, the Nevada team is doing a lot of the background work, so they'll be going over to the Westin, this morning to finish doing the decorating for the room over there for the pageant.
You crashed on it yesterday. Yeah, that's it, right?
Let's see if I can do that.
So I need a computer to start anything with. All of your computers are occupied.
No, you can use this, actually, this one is for presentation. So when
No, I need to set up a Zoom for my panel.
Okay. Yeah, this
Yeah,
afternoon? Alright.
but they need to know what time and how it's gonna, all that work, that I can't do.
Okay. So we can set the Zoom conference on here, because Zoom's on this machine right here.
All right,
I got the Zoom software.
can we set it up now? So send the link to them? All right, go ahead, get started. We'll do it one. I'll call. That's it.
Okay, I'll make this abbreviated and short. I don't know where everybody else is at.
Well, they're not on the first floor. I made a couple trips, so they're not down there.
Sylvia Harris?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Good morning. So, thank everyone for showing up last night for the meet and greet. And, I had a great time. Um, so I'm gonna go around the room and I'm gonna have everybody quickly say who they are and where they're from, real quick, and what the Juneteenth is, or what the Juneteenth plan gonna be, and so we all can get an introduction of on who each other are. So we'll start over here in the corner with this young lady in the red, white, and blue.
Hey. Yeah, let's try it. Okay. Deion Sims, Unity Unlimited, Mental Police granddaughter, Fort Worth, Texas, and I am representing her by proxy today for the general session, and then she'll be back a little bit, maybe probably before lunch, but, hello, glad to be here.
So I can see everybody that's here. Good morning, Betty Sawyer. I am from Utah. I'm the Juneteenth coordinator there. This year was our 31st year for our statewide Juneteenth festival and the 45th year for Juneteenth in Utah in general. We have a lot of transplants, as you might imagine, in Utah, and some of them were from Texas that started Juneteenth prior to me coming to Utah. This year, we didn't let COVID stop us. It slowed us and had us transition some things, but we were fortunate enough to have flag raising ceremonies in two of our major cities, Salt Lake and Ogden, and two in Salt Lake, with our county mayor as well as our city mayor. And we had our congressman, one of our congressmen, Bill McAdams, showed up for our Salt Lake flag raising and promised and pledged to support our federal legislation when it comes to the floor. And we had a caravan instead of our festivities, so that ended up being a wonderful event to the extent that people said we need to add that every year.
That's what I said, he said.
They really enjoyed it. You know,
That's
we
right.
had police escort and all of that took us through the entire city and started at historical site, the Marshall White Center, the only building in Utah until 5 years ago that was named after a Black person. And he was a slain police officer. So we started and ended our caravan there with broad representation. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we had put an alternate date to do an outside event, and that was September the 19th. And that included voter registration, census outreach, and we expanded our theme to be the change and just convince people amid all the Black Lives Matter and other protests, it's time to talk and it's time to walk. So let's sign up, get involved, and all of that. I'm glad to be here.
My name is Tatiana Cook. This is my husband Charles, and we have started an organization, GA, in Brunswick, Georgia. It is the area where the late Ahmaud Arbery, the young man that was killed while jogging. So we have been doing Juneteenth, having Juneteenth celebrations and activities in Brunswick, Georgia since 2014. Riding the skirt tails of the first elected African American mayor of that city, which is Cornell Harvey. So in the past, we've been doing, well, last year we did our first flag raising ceremony, and that was pretty exciting. We had to have help from Mr. President as to the guidance because we didn't get much support in the city where we were. We are having communication issues with the NAACP and some of the urban leagues in the area. So I'm looking forward to being able to get some of the knowledge and as to how you all are handling communications with some of the organizations that you all are to get to the point that you are in your organization, and definitely the national. So this year, we had Ms. Opal Lee accepted an invitation to come to Brunswick, Georgia, and just before her birthday. So our mayor, Mayor Cornell Harvey, announced and gave a proclamation for Miss Opal Lee to have Opal Lee Day in the city of Brunswick every year from now forevermore.
And I have a vacation spot to go to.
September 26th of every year will be celebrated as Miss Opal Lee Day in the city of Brunswick, Georgia. So we're very excited about that. And also this year we're participating in the first, for 2021, we'll be participating in the first Juneteenth pageant. So we're going to get a lot of information. I'm looking forward to the girls and young men to be able to participate in next year's Juneteenth pageant. Glad to be
So we're gonna be a Mr. Juneteenth?
Yeah, we're working on it.
You can talk to
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. Greetings. My name is Adrienne Johnson. I am from Tampa, Florida, and I am representing the Tampa Bay Juneteenth Coalition, and I'm standing in place of my mother, Dr. Tucker Johnson, who is president of the Tampa Bay Juneteenth.
Bob, why aren't you on the ninth floor, man, at the meeting? It started an hour ago.
Are you a student or what you doing?
Yeah,
I'm not. I'm actually okay.
yeah, come down to the ninth floor.
I am actually
Yeah, come to the ninth
teacher
floor.
in Harris County Public Schools in
Okay.
Houston, Texas. I'm moving back to Florida this week coming up. I have my bachelor's degree in elementary education, my master's in curriculum and instruction, and I am glad to be here. I love to learn.
Okay.
For some reason, everybody thought she was my daughter last night. So I'm just curious to know more about her. Good morning. I'm Sylvia Lewis Harris from Delaware, and I hate these masks. That's part of it from me. Whew, can't breathe. So I'm from Delaware, the Delaware Juneteenth Association, where I'm the president of the association. We are one of the first that Doc Myers passed Juneteenth to. We've been celebrating Juneteenth in Delaware for 27 years. We've been doing a pageant in Delaware for this would have been our 23rd year. So next year will be the 24th year. We run a youth pageant for young ladies ages 8 to 18. From January to June, we do workshops and activities with the young ladies around anything you can imagine, etiquette, around resume writing, around attending college, whatever the topics are. We try to cover all of those things from January to June in order to prepare them for the pageant. Over the years, we've struggled with involving young men in our programs. They were a part of the pageant as escorts, but we wanted them to be more involved. So we created what we call the Kingship Male Showcase Extravaganza. So the young men in us doing our question and answer and our gap analysis, they wanted to do talent exhibitions. They didn't want to be a king. They didn't want to be in a pageant. They didn't want any of that. So we chose to do that. We give them scholarship prizes for the winners. We do a first, second, and third place winners for that. Our pageant also is a scholarship pageant. So the young ladies receive scholarship as well. This year, thanks to COVID, everything was virtual. So we wound up with a virtual flag raising. We wound up doing where our workshops wound up being virtual, and those consisted of numerous things around. We did one where our former queens came back, the ones that have graduated from college and or have families now came back to mentor the young ladies on this particular workshop, which was called Wear Your Crown to College. So the ones that have attended college and graduated came back and facilitated this workshop. It was absolutely wonderful because they shared their experiences
and the do's and don'ts about when you go to college, because we all know what happens when you go to college, and many young people, that was their first time out, away from home, so they needed some guidance, so that was a good thing, and the girls, the young ladies had a great time. We did a virtual observance, that included our United States Senator, Tom Crawford, who signed who signed our, activities into legislation, um, uh, 20 years ago, or 26 years ago. We had our Governor John Connie, our mayor, our city council, and our county council, who all participated in the observance and the flag raising. So we got a reasonable amount of support. We also, because of COVID, Ms. Juneteenth created an event called the COVID Relief Drive. So she solicited donations from all around, from hand sanitizer to underwear for homeless people. So they had toothbrushes, they had soap, it was all sorts of things in these personal care packages. We delivered 400 personal care packages to 4 different homeless shelters. The men and women that were there, they cried, it was just a great thing to see. But COVID has made us change our thinking. So we also had a caravan that has been asked to be a part of the regular activities as well next year.
All right. Rosetta.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosetta Perkins. I'm the founder of the Oklahoma Black Museum in Oklahoma City, as well as the National African American Jazz Legacy Museum. And I'd like to start off by saying that Dr. Miles inspired us when we first met. He came to the Oklahoma Black Museum and he said, you all need to be honoring Jimmy Rushing. He was born here. So he pulled our coat. And then after meeting with him several times and just developing a friendship, he said, and another thing, you all need to be honoring the Black soldiers and the people in the military. So at that point, he knew this, one of the preachers there who was one of the national people with the NAMVET. And so we got introduced to him, and from that moment on, we started doing our Juneteenth at his facility, which was a church on one of the main streets there in Oklahoma City. So for about 5 or 6 years, we honored the Black veterans there at the church every year. And then as we went on down the line, we started working on the Jazz Legacy Museum. Well, I'm gonna talk about that at 2 o'clock, how that all started. But, jazz is one of the greatest art forms in the world. And we were gonna start that down in New Orleans, but we thought about going back and forth and trying to have a meeting of the minds, and that didn't happen. So I said, well, shoot, we can do it right here in Oklahoma City, because we have great musicians here in Oklahoma City that, with tradition and what have you. And I'll talk more about that too at 2 o'clock. But anyway, we have another gentleman there that has been doing a Juneteenth celebration for 30 years. Mr. Kirk. What's his name? Ronnie Kirk. And so when Steve came down, we introduced him to Ronnie Kirk. And Ronnie Kirk came, he said, shoot, we've been doing it for 30 years. So we're trying to gather all the information about everybody in Oklahoma City to keep on the tradition of Juneteenth. And so we have many people now that's coming with us, and the COVID, I'm pronouncing it wrong, the COVID, I'll call it everything, the COVID. That kind of stopped our people from coming, but we still had a pretty good crowd. We had 2 bands and what have you. Steve came down at this last one and he made ours a better celebration. And he played his horn. So anyway, this is what we're doing, and it's a steady thing where we're steady growing. And so we expect more. And I'll talk more about the Jazz Legacy Museum today at 2 o'clock.
Let's see who we got.
I'm sorry, I'm just trying not to have my back to you. My name is Penny Brown, and actually I'm very new to the Juneteenth Foundation. And what my plans were for this year in Maryland was to have flag raises at plantations there. And so I had started working towards that, and then COVID knocked me flat for 3 months. So, but those plans will be carried out in 2021. I'm also the CEO of Caring Enough for Others. And what that is designed to do is I'm trying to create transitional residential housing for people who have aged out of foster care, but are not quite ready for the world. So I want to get them ready with job training and everything else that they need. So say a prayer for me. If I reach out to you, please provide help. It would greatly be appreciated. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pavane Scott. I am a music educator, Tampa coordinator, pageant coordinator. I served as commissioner last year in East Tampa, and also I'm a White House spokesperson for childcare in the Fight for 15, avid Fight for Justice, and the National Fight for 15 and the SEIU, which is in Tampa, Florida. This is my second year with the pageant, and I'm very excited to be here. I'm working with Miss Tampa Juneteenth and the other contestants. I put together a Tampa roundtable discussion, and I'm here at your service for any questions or anything that we can do to continue the fight for what we're doing to make Juneteenth a national holiday. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to give me a call. Thanks so much.
Dr. Little, just introduce yourself.
Good morning. This is a convoluted story, so follow me. I am with the Oklahoma Black Museum with Rosetta Funches as a board member, consultant, grant writer, whatever. And through working with Rosetta, we got involved with the Jimmy Rushing jazz concert. And as I was at the concert, I was listening to jazz, and she kept mentioning our guest artist who was there. And so when the guest artist came out, I looked at the body shape, and I recognized that body shape. I'm from Ardmore, Oklahoma. Dr. Myers' grandparents and parents were from Ardmore, Oklahoma. They moved away back in the 60s, but my father and my mother were best friends with Dr. Myers' mother and father. So I knew his father and mother when they would come back to the reunions. And Dr. Myers, the grandfather, was a Methodist minister. And he would come back to Ardmore every summer. And so when he came back to Ardmore every summer, he lived next door to us with the family next door. And he was blind. So sometimes when they would leave, they would ask me to babysit him so that I could take care of him. Well, I was a teenager. So one day I got on the phone, and I was supposed to be watching Dr. Myers. He was sitting on the front porch. So I was talking on the phone. So when I remembered Dr. Myers, I went outside, and he'd fallen off the porch, and he was on the ground. And
Dr. Myers,
grandfather. So Dr. Myers was the same size as Dr. Myers, our Dr. Myers. So I was down on the ground trying to help him up. And as I was trying to help him up, his daughter and the baby drove up. So anyway, we got him up and got him back up. But anyway, he had the same body shape as his grandson. So that's how I recognized Dr. Myers. When I saw him, I knew who he was. And I went up and introduced myself. So we became great friends over the course of a few months. But in 1985, so I got introduced to Juneteenth, the celebration, and renewing it with Rosetta. But in 1985, when I was finishing my dissertation, I was invited to be on a commission on Black women in Oklahoma. And so they were trying to come up with ideas for the conference. So I came up with the idea of doing a documentary on Black women in Oklahoma. So I produced a documentary on Black women in Oklahoma called Black Oklahoma. In the research, I discovered that African Americans, African slaves, had been brought to Oklahoma with the 5 civilized tribes, which I had not known that before. And so I started doing research on the 5 tribes and uh, the slave movement from the south to Oklahoma and how it affected the slaves that they brought with them. So this was kind of a background research that I was doing separate from the museum. So then when we started working with Juneteenth, and I went back and started reviewing the material that I had gathered on the 5 civilized tribes, I found interesting information connected to emancipation. For example, the 5 civilized tribes during the Civil War were divided. One half of the tribe would go with the South, with Confederacy, and one half of the tribe was with the Union. Well, the Cherokee, the part that was with the Union, when Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1862, he enacted 1863, the Cherokee immediately adapted to the emancipation. So they supposedly freed their slaves in 1863, but nobody came to teach to it. So they freed them on paper, but it actually, so they were one of the first people to actually try to free the slaves in 1863. Okay, now fast forward to the emancipation in Galveston, Texas. So the word trickled up to Oklahoma. And so the other anomaly was that emancipation ended in the state of Oklahoma in 1866 because the tribes were the last ones to sign a treaty with the United States. And when they signed the treaty, they were the treaties of 1866. They had to agree to make the freedmen, who were the African slaves, they had to agree to make the freedmen full members of the tribe with full rights. Well, part of the tribe didn't want to do that because the freedmen, in some cases, would outnumber the tribe's people. So they devised a way through the Dawes Commission to divide the slaves up. And so they divided the slaves by blood or as native. If you were by blood, you got on the roll as a full member of the tribe. And so you had full rights. And you got each person in the family got 130, 120 acres. So if you had 10 people in your family, you got 1,200 acres. I know I'm going on too long.
You're a professor.
This is wonderful.
He's a professor, how can you tell?
So anyway, so the tribe divided up by blood. So if your mother was Indian and your father was black, you were Indian. So you got the full 120 acres. If your mother was black and your father was Indian, you were black. You didn't get the American. You got 40 acres. But most people didn't get 40 acres either. They got 40 acres per person in the family. And so that continues on today. And so I'm involved in trying to get restitution for the people who were basically put out of their tribe, because and so they're, as you know, we have casinos in Oklahoma. The richest tribe in the world is the Chickasaw. So I am part Chickasaw. And the Chickasaw make $1 billion every 3 months. That was before COVID. So they are very rich. So potentially, we have been denied quite a bit of money historically. And it's a long story about how the ones that did get their land were cheated out of their land, but we won't go into that. But anyway, the whole point of this is that all of this is dovetailed together with the Juneteenth work. I have been able to document where emancipation ended in Oklahoma and where it almost began in
in the tribes in 1863.
Thank you. Turn around, Dr. Turnipseed.
I'm John A. Turnipseed, and I am a professor too, but I'm not going to. I'm a professor at Jackson State University and Mississippi Valley State University, teaching history. But I am a public historian, which is a person who establishes historic parks and monuments and museums and that sort of thing. We're about doing it, not just about talking about it. It's about making things happen with the information of history. So we are working on a monument that I hope you take a look at out in the hallway that is in tribute and dedication to Grandmama now for picking on that damn cotton.
All right.
No one has ever said thank you. They didn't get paid. At least you can say thank you. So we're gonna build a historic park in the Mississippi Delta, which is AKA the Cotton Kingdom, which also supplies this country with the greatest economic return than any other industry in the world. Cotton, for nearly 200 years, without profiting all other industries combined for nearly 200 years. And we don't talk about cotton. Why? Because you owe us. And so the whole return on investment idea, reparations, retribution, any R word you want to put to it, yeah, that's what we need to be talking about. And so establishing the monument will show our children that we truly do respect the work of Grandmama Nim, our ancestors, all the things they have contributed. We need to show our children how to be respectful. And that's by honoring the legacy and the contributions that have been made. So that's the work that I'm actively involved with. I certainly hope you support it as well, because, you know, everybody knows something about cotton. And just go home and talk to Grandmama Nim if you don't. My work with Juneteenth involves coming up or working with the Education Committee to establish the Juneteenth 101 timeline and document. And so we have another series of things that we're working on with that. Currently, I'm working with the calendar project and doing the podcast. So if any of you have information that you would like to have recorded on the podcast, I would need to sit with you and introduce you sometime today, preferably around 4. We're gonna do a presentation today, in fact, on the Cotton Kingdom at
3 to
3,
5.
yeah, 3 o'clock, so we'll have a PowerPoint on that. But after that, immediately after that, I'm gonna sit with whoever, you know, would like to be interviewed about the work that you're doing for the archival purposes of our podcast. We would have that online, you can download it anywhere. We would podcast. So, yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you. All right.
Good morning, I'm Dee Evans. I'm Director of National Communications for the organization. I'm also a board member, State Director for Nevada. This year, I established the NJOF NV as a separate corporation within our state. We've been working up to this point under the national, so we've changed that a little bit. And I'm also a founding member of the West Side Historical Society in Las Vegas, where we will start collecting and spreading out, distributing stories about the events that occurred in Las Vegas on the West Side in our community, tied in with the Boulder Highway and the things that we did there, tied in with the Moulin Rouge. So we're going to be doing some of those things over the coming years, starting with a program in February. I lost 8 of my 9 events for Juneteenth, thanks to our friend COVID. So we had to do some rearranging, but I had a good team. I had Charlotte Carpenter, Leslie Walton, and Rosalind Beal. And they took over. We did a caravan. We did an event at the park under Charlotte, which brought in 3,000 people, even with COVID. We did a family picnic. and Leslie was the one that coordinated our pageant events. So those are my three team members, and I brought them here to Las Vegas with me. Charlotte's working outside now. Leslie is with the pageant young ladies, and Silver Reed. We brought Silver Reed in from Las Vegas to do their makeup. Silver is a consultant for the Giorgio Armani Yves Saint Laurent group. So he's bringing in the makeup, and they will be beautiful. Of course, they're beautiful already, but with his makeup, we're going to go forward and do a little extra. We're seeing some more people come in. Hello. As I said, we lost at all of our events except for one. We ended up doing two flag raisings in addition to the events at the park and the caravan. We're also working with Neon. Neon is a partnership that I'm doing with St. Jude's Auxiliary. We're giving free bookcases and free books to the children to encourage them to start their own book collections and to read. We're working Soul City Wi-Fi, where we're providing free Wi-Fi to about 5,000 families in the West Side community. And it was designed by a very smart man, and he's been a great help for us. And we had the City Hall. Las Vegas City Hall did a digital display of the Juneteenth flag on the 1st and the 19th of June. And it stayed all night for the city while they were rioting. Black Lives Matter was 2 blocks away from us. We didn't have any trouble. So we've done good. I think that covers pretty much where we're at. I'm also a student of the education group and a student of the pageant group because, well, of course, with education, we're learning a lot about our history that was not taught. And with the pageant, this is our first year for doing the pageant, and we do have our young lady here, Anaya, will be participating this evening along with the other 2 young ladies. And as far as collecting stories, one story that's come out from the education group is the story of Nance. Carl Adams did not come with us today, but he did a story on Nance, a slave woman that Abraham Lincoln freed through the court system 20 years before he became president. And at that time, she had 4 children. One of them was a babe in arms that was 10 months old, who at the time of Galveston was one of the U.S. colored troops in Galveston that helped free the slaves in Galveston in 1865. So we're going with that from that angle. I'm asking every state to contribute at least one unknown story from their state, because I know every state has to have at least one. And we'd like to start up, put that either in the newsletter or to set up a new website or put it on the main website to collect stories and just publish our stories and get our history out there. So we don't have to hear about Macmillan Publishing and telling us that we were happy slaves who were just interns. And thank you for everything. Thank you for coming. Steve?
Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I think so, almost.
Well, you? We don't know who you are, young man.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for introducing yourself.
Excuse me, we don't know who you are. Please
My
introduce
name is
yourself,
Steve
sir.
Williams. I was just a foot soldier for Doc Myers. I met Doc in 2002. I have moved to Washington, D.C., to the Virginia area from Southern California with my family to get away from the madness that was going on there. And my company was an IT company. I was a senior engineer, and one of my clients was the National Press Building and National Press Club. And I had got a call from the Secret Service saying that they were having a problem with their satellite phones working in the building. And I said, well, I don't work on Juneteenth, but I'll come down the day before and, look at it. And I get in the elevator and I go up there, I see a sign on the wall that says National Juneteenth Prayer Breakfast. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I'm in the Emancipation City. These people don't know anything about Juneteenth, right? And so I come back the next day after fixing the problem, looking at it, I come back the next day and I'm ready to, let them have it about what the real Juneteenth is about. I'm like, well, you guys don't know. You start talking about the Emancipation Day. And I walk in the door and the press club is a secure place, right? You got to be on the list to get in or you just can't walk in. But I walk in because I'm the IT guy. And I walk in the door and sit there and just went, Dr. Myers. Hey, brother. How how you getting here? And we just spoke right then, and he told me the concept about making Juneteenth a national holiday, and I'm like, wow, that's a pretty good idea, you know. I told him what I did, and so that's what I did. So he said, are you here? He said, I don't have anybody on the hill to help me. And I said, yeah. So we started with prayer breakfast, and the next year I helped him with the prayer breakfast and wreath lanes, and then we did a flag raising at Howard. And Doc would send me mail and say, can you get this letter to Governor so-and-so? I'm like, because my company managed the Hall State bill, and we managed the Senate bill. And it doesn't care whether you're Democrat or Republican or independent. If you can't print, you don't know your password, you can't get in, you off a document, it's all the same. So, you know, and I had that even killed, that let the politics get involved with my work. So Doc looked at that, and I was on the Congressional Caucus and Advisory Committee. But he just used to send me stuff and tell me to hand it to people and take it to people, and I would. And whatever he called, I just like, hey, man, whatever. So I didn't know it was a setup. So and he told me he was gonna hang it. He said, dude, after a couple months, come on. And I'm like, okay, Doc, I will. And he said, I'll ride with you, you know. I know I'm not gonna be here forever. And I'm like, but you know, let's go. And so I'm here, you know. I grew up in Juneteenth. My grandpa was Juneteenth from Rentersville, Oklahoma, a little one of the black towns in Oklahoma, you know. He grew up with John Hope Franklin, they're running the kids, streets in the dirt in Rentersville. You know, I was talking to Bobby Rush last night, you know, I used to play with DC Minner as a kid on the trumpet. DC played the guitar and I played stuff with him and hung out, you know, Bill Maxwell, guys like that. So a lot of stuff background, and Doc and I got that. You know, his grandma is from Oak Mountain. You know, his dad's from Ardmore, and right in the middle is Rentersville by Shakota. So, you know, we had that running up and down Highway 40. We just changed that story, and I used to, you know, go fishing in Lake Follow. You know, so I was just, you know, ready to go. And so Doc just, you know, put it in place and was very happy to do whatever I could. Before I get out, I have to announce a couple people, okay, that didn't get a chance. Betty Sawyer is a member of the board of directors of the foundation. Sylvia Harris is a proxy for Bernie Wilkins, a member of the board of directors. And Dee Evans is vice chair of the board of directors. Okay? And we were supposed to have one other person show up that was on the board, and I don't know if Monty is here or not. She was trying to get in. I talked to her last night. Monty Carroll, she's out of all that. Okay? So, one thing about the structure of the organization that I want to talk about is the way that I have come to understand how Doc functions. He told me how he operated, right? He explained in detail how he operated. He had a board of directors because Caesar requires a board of directors, Caesar being the United States government. And he had a board of directors that supported substantial decisions. When he wanted to reach out to states, he had state directors all around the country, and state directors would talk to. If he had a particular issue or something he wanted to get done, he put a commissioner on it. Like Lee Jordan, most of you know, he was not only the media commissioner, but the bicycle commissioner. So there was different things that he had set up. And then he was always about being grassroots. So a couple of things that I want to keep in mind and get out of here. That's one of the last things that Doc told me and kept in town to keep Juneteenth grassroots. And that's going to be with the people here, the people viewing this, keeping Juneteenth grassroots. And what does that mean? It means keeping it community based. Do not get tied or bogged down into the big companies and corporations. They're going to be looking for guidance and try to commercialize Juneteenth. And we have to do our best to keep it community, keep it with the people, keep it real with education, keep it real with information, keep it real with awareness of where we're at, and mobilization, to be able to mobilize the people. Thus, one of the things that we want to do and really expound upon at this, besides Juneteenth, is there's a thing called from voter to election official. The very Next thing, we've always been told register to vote, register to vote, register to vote, register to vote. We got it, and we still got to do better at it. But we have to look forward, and the Juneteenth mentality is to say, we're registering to vote, but we're handing the ballots over to them. You understand what I'm saying? We got to be the ones accepting the ballots. And the way, that's one of the key next things that we have to do as Juneteenth people across the country. We've got to be the election officials, the poll judges. We've got to be the ones watching the process, watching what you're doing with the ballots, how the process is working. It's just not enough to be standing on the outside registering to vote, okay? If the system is good, any of the corrections come from the system, come from with us. That was a problem in Georgia. There's only not enough of us were involved in Georgia in the election system. We were down and registered to vote, handed over our ballot to a bunch of people who said, like, do whatever, right? You don't know what all they're doing. They got 1,001 tricks, but they've been doing it for a couple hundred years. So we're trying to keep ourselves focused with specific ideas. The other thing is we come up with a theme. The last couple of years, the theme has been generated by the board of directors and that group of people of what we were doing. This year, we know what we want to say, and we want to get the actual theme from you, okay? And so what we want to do is we want to concentrate on economics and cooperation, cooperative economics and growth, financial growth, business growth, understanding what to do. So we're looking to come up with a theme that can reflect that, okay? Last year, we had honoring our ancestors, which was to take, the year before we had honoring our ancestors, which was to acknowledge the past and get there. This year, we did a lot with perfecting unity, not as much as we wanted to. We were working with getting some other organizations, a little bit more of a grip that we have, and we were working with the tribes and the Buffalo Soldiers with getting them back together, right? And so we are working continually. That's going to be part of our theme is unity. But for us as a group to lead the way, we have to start thinking about one of the things that we don't have that other groups do have. And that one thing is cooperative economics. Okay? We don't share that. Asian communities share it, Latino communities share it, European communities share it, but we don't share that philosophy. We don't share that tradition. We did at one time, even in Oklahoma, but it's gone now. It's not there. We don't manage to rub two pennies together to make anything. We have to change that. And so that's going to be one of the key things that we want to get across this year, is to inform our people with the knowledge of how Caesar operates, and then get together and make it happen. So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Everybody's still shuffling around after last night. There's a session downstairs and there's a session upstairs. And we're off schedule, but do you have a schedule right there? Thank you very much. So breakout one was supposed to be facilitated by me, cooperative economics, and what time?
Can I suggest we just move the session B down one hour and just keep it in, we should be still cleared up.
Okay. Session B.
Because we were possibly gonna drop off one of those last hours with the podcast. And the other one, we could cut that in, there was one other one there at the end, 3 and 4 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna. All right, we're gonna change the schedule around, so let me work that out real quick. So over the last, you heard Dion talk about it, and I was going to come up to talk about Opal's Walk and how we could continue to use that to get our point across. But the thing that I wanted to get out while people start thinking about it, start thinking about the cooperative economics and the theme about that will come up in 2021. So you understand, it's a thing called a TANDAS, TANDAS. TANDAS is a way to pull money together to benefit your community or your organization. It usually works in groups of people that contribute a certain set amount of money into a pool, and then one person or one organization is awarded money over a period out of that pool, and you keep building into that pool, okay? And they have several different of these type of organizations or this type of philosophy in different groups. We should probably start doing some things like that. It's not a pyramid scheme, but it's a TANDAS, and a TANDAS is shared cooperative economics. And you build other things outside of it besides just money, right? You build culture, you build community, you build intrinsic trust with one another because you have a vested interest to see that person succeed so they can continue to contribute to the cause. So you not only are contributing money, but you're contributing information and valuable resources. So we're going to be bringing that program forward and bringing it across the nation using some technology. And they're trying to get us there, but nobody's got the package which is culturally competent enough to make sure we get there. Companies are, from Cash App to PayPal, they are all trying to get this message out because they heard it, but they don't know how to wrap it so that we can take the best advantage of it. So that's one of the things we want to focus on in 2021, right? And to make Juneteenth more than just a party, that it's a commemoration and it's an education. And with that in mind, that's our major purpose here. And the push to have this amount of petitions done would be really good. And so where we're going to go next with Opal's Walk and how Opal's Walk is going to contribute to that cause, Ms. Deion Sims.
Hello, everybody. Again, I'm representing Ms. Opal to making her way back here to the facility. When she had the idea, all right, to do Opal Walk to DC, it really was out of frustration at President Obama for not have been in the White House for 8 years and not have Juneteenth as a national holiday. So she wanted to talk to him about why. And so she said, and we couldn't talk her out of it. I mean, it's a neat thing to be almost 90, she was 89 at the time, and wanting to do this literal walk, 1,400 miles. And so what we did do, and she called Doc and she told Doc what she was going to do. She didn't ask or get it, any plan whatsoever in place, except that she was going to start from Fort Worth and go to Washington, D.C. I said, Grandier, you know if you actually walk it, the man will be out of office by the time you get there. So, but, needless to say, she wanted to bring awareness. Her thing is, they ought to see a little old lady walking and have the news, kind of follow. What is this little old lady doing? So she's all about, trying to get people to see and then ask questions. All right. When you get someone's attention and then they ask you, why are you doing this? Now you've got their attention. And so that was her thing, is to try and get the news to see, because it was like Juneteenth was going, unnoticed. So she's a showman, if nothing else. And so, but in 2016, like she said, someone reneged on her RV, and I thought that would slow her down, and it didn't. So we, set out doing what she wanted to do. As we, go forward, 16 got really contentious in the fall with the election, and, Trump was stepping at all the news air, so she wasn't getting that trend thing she wanted, but she kept going nonetheless. So we changed it and made it go where you guys were, and a lot of you invited her to come out, and want to thank you because I was still working, so I wasn't traveling with her, and I'm sitting a 90-year-old lady, just out on the road, going, and so you guys would pick her up, and Maya and Joanne, had flight benefits, so, we would coordinate, and folks would pick her up and, hold on to her and this kind of stuff, so you guys were truly wonderful in doing that. And so we get, past 2016, 2017, she takes a break. Bernie Sanders calls and puts the bee back in her bonnet for 2019. And she's like, it's time to go back on the road again. And so I'm like, really? Okay. And so we started with the Detroit. So then she started following the candidates. All right, let me get to the candidates, where they're going to be. Because there's lots of, we had almost 20 Democratic candidates at the time. And so it's like, okay, again, she's about where will the news cameras be? Where can we say Juneteenth needs to be? As a matter of fact, you can, so we had packets. We made packets so they could have all the Juneteenth information. And I think when she was in Vegas, right, there was a breakfast and Joe Biden was there and she wasn't letting go of Joe Biden's hand. We got a picture. She wasn't letting go of Joe Biden's hand until he remembered seeing her at the debate in Houston that Bernie Sanders, sponsored her being there with Sam Collins. Sam had an awesome Galveston walk and so forth. And so it's all about awareness. It's all about trying to get people to see that Juneteenth needs to be a holiday. All right, so that's her goal. And she's not going to stop, even with her age. We've slowed her, COVID slowed her down quite a bit because we didn't get to make it to Topeka, Kansas, and do some things. Philly, Ron Brown, we didn't get to make that stop, but they were just ready to do. And so she's ready to go. My goal is to make sure that when she does go, that we bring as much attention, much spotlight on Juneteenth being a holiday, the stuff that NJOF has done, and to, include folks signing the petition and knowing that there is an organization that, has to be done. So as we delivered our 1.5 million signatures in September, there was a lot that happened in that delivery. Steve came down, was the very gracious host. Penny was there, Sherry Bailey came up, and then we moved on to Brunswick after that. But while we were in DC, we got to see a lot of historical. We went to the burial ground for the enslaved with Dr. Michelle Thomas. Michelle Thomas, and went and had the proclamation at Leesburg with the mayor of Leesburg and the council. Phyllis.
She's the chairwoman
of the county.
Only woman chairman, and the only black woman chairman in Loudoun County. And so
Loudoun County was wonderful. Went and saw, the last place on the Underground Railroad. I mean, just a lot of history, so we've got to go back. But the thing that I want you guys to know is that now Doc is a grassroots kind of guy, all right? Ms. Opal is about getting as much exposure as possible. So I just want NJOF to ride the train, all right? Ride the rail, ride the skirt tail, because it ain't stopping, all right? And we're trying to do as much as we can to make sure that we keep the visibility up. You heard us say last night, trying to keep the pressure on, trying to keep, folks talking about Juneteenth, because the president, 45, has said he made Juneteenth famous. Because of his mistake of trying to go to Oklahoma on the 19th of June. And that made Juneteenth known. Like, where have you been, right? So trying to dispel that, all right, but tell our story, all right? And she's getting calls. She got Good Morning America is coming on. They want to do it. And she's won a Unsung Hero Award. And so they're wanting to do some really big press around her winning that and that kind of stuff. So she's got people coming after her, all right? And she's going to take every bit of it as possible, to do it. And we're taking Juneteenth along so it may not, P. Diddy called, all right? P. Diddy called and, and he's all excited and this, that, and the other, but it's not like she's, going after it, but we're taking every bit of it as possible and saying, keep the pressure on, keep the visibility up, okay? So again, just trying to make sure that, you know, if you see something, re-hashtag it, post it, whatever the social media, you know, stuff says to do, you know, to make it trend. If you're on Instagram, her Instagram is the real Opal Lee, is her Instagram page, Unity Unlimited Juneteenth for work. And I think the one thing that we really need to do is to take advantage of that whole hashtag thing. So if there are hashtags that NJOF needs us to post on all her stuff, you know, if we have a list, get that to us and we will, you know, hashtag the mess out of everything that we put out there. We give it to her team. She's got a social media team that puts the stuff out. But whatever it takes to make sure that, you know, we use, I call her a tool. And that's what she is for NJOF. Right now, she's a tool to be used. And she doesn't mind being a tool. All right? But whatever it takes to get the visibility up, like after I think, people say I'm wrong, or she says I'm wrong, everybody else believes me, that on our flight from DC to Atlanta to go to Brunswick, Ben Carson was on the plane. Okay. Yeah, okay. Ben Carson was on the plane. Miss Opal was in the aisle right here in 19. Ben Carson was in 18 on the aisle. In coach. Okay. Now, on the side by the window was Ben Carson's aide from Fort Worth. His name was Andrew. And so Andrew strikes up a conversation with Miss Opal, and all right, so she's telling Andrew, and Andrew's telling her, well, you know, I'm Mr. Carson's aide. So she looks across the way to see Miss. She ain't trying to bother nobody. But he's telling her that they're going to Atlanta because the president's going to be talking about Juneteenth and his plan, his platinum plan for the African American community. And so she tells Andrew to send me the link. And I'm on the plane getting this thing. Miss Opal said for me to send it to you. I don't know this number. And I'm reading it going, what? And so then she comes down to the airplane to me and she says, can you believe it? I'm like, no. Well, we're not going to go for it. I'm just like, okay, well, now we're on a plane. We can't do anything about it. She says, well, I'm going to tell them, if we can't get anything before the election, don't be trying, however you handle it. I didn't know Ben Carson was on the plane. I didn't. And so she tells Ben Carson, all right, you tell Trump, she told you all that. But coincidence? But they have reached out. They have reached out to have her come back to DC. Okay? And so that's what I'm saying. People are coming at her, and she's going to take everything that she can to give that visibility to Juneteenth. Let's just use it as a tool. Let's just use it as a tool to drive up the petitions. Her goal is to have another 1.5 million signatures for a total of 3 million by January. What we're seeing as again a really good place to deliver them would be on the 19th of January, and it really would help if Biden-Harris win. And the inauguration being on the 20th, because she will be there for that inauguration if it happens. We deliver the 1.5 on the 19th because MLK's birthday is on the 18th. All right, the 18th, 19th, 20th, that would be a great look from a marketing perspective. So anything that we can do to drive those petitions, we're talking to Oprah Winfrey. And so, just stuff is happening. She's a tool. All right, she doesn't mind being a tool, but let's just use it. Use it as best as possible, and anything and everything that we can do to bring attention to Juneteenth being a holiday, she's up for it. So if you have any questions, any suggestions, any people we ought to talk to, let us know, and we'll get on it. She does have a publicist that's helping with, contacting and connecting with people, so it's not all on me or anything, but she's got arms, and she's willing to walk anywhere. And again, you saw the security, keep your mask on because we got to protect her and everything. But, that's our goal. is, to be used. And she, you know, she doesn't like for me to call her this, but she is a brand. And we're branding everything we can so that as that visibility ripens up, Juneteenth is the goal. So grandmother of Juneteenth, her book, whatever, okay? So that was my thing. Thank you guys.
Hey, we got one more person that came in that I have to have him introduce himself and tell his story. And, if you come up here so we can get you on camera, come up here, Bob.
Atlanta.
My day, my time. John Zion. B-O-E.
Both ways.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm just happy to be here today. My name is Bob Johnson, and I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, where we do Juneteenth Atlanta Black History Parade and Music Festival for only, well, I guess this would have been the 9th year. So next year will be our 10th year, our first decade of actually having a Juneteenth celebration in the city of Atlanta. We started out very, very, very small, and it actually started out as a natural beer / Juneteenth show. Because it just kind of came to me miraculously to do a Juneteenth in Atlanta. You know, initially, I was just departing from another convention, which was natural hair, you know, encouraging our women, our people to embrace natural hair as opposed to a lot of the alternatives to natural hair. And I started that in the early 90s when you couldn't even say natural hair. So, you know, and doing that had a lot to do with history, just taking people back through history to how we even got away from our natural hair or just ourselves in general as people, you know, just being detached from our culture. Of course, as we all know, that was the whole part of the plan to basically separate and divide people through all kinds of means and to keep self-hatred in order to further oppress. So I got involved with that whole natural hair movement all the way up until 2000, right around 2010. So we were able to really create a natural hair industry, and that's why when I separated with my partner that I was doing that with, I needed to continue doing events. And so the idea came to have, instead of having the one natural hair event that we had once a year, I said, okay, well, we can keep doing that. And I'll just do another natural hair event 6 months later. So now we got two. And that didn't go across too good. So, make a long story short, I started to walk away from the whole natural hair thing altogether. Just, you know what? I'm just not even going to mess with it. So one of the ladies at the convention center that we used to do the natural hair show told me not to give up. You know, she's like, oh, you don't have to do that. Why don't we, I'm going to give you some dates, and I want you to look at these dates. And if you select a date to do your event, I will give you a block where no one else can do a similar event. That's why I was walking away, because when I started my first initial new event, my ex tried to do an event the month before, you know, to throw it off. Like, competition was a little too much, so I kind of had left that part out. But anyway, I still walked away from it. And later on, I looked at the date that she gave me. This is why I'm saying, for me to be involved in Juneteenth, as far as doing events, had nothing to do with me. It had to do with the call and the prayer and the passion that I had just to continue what I was doing, which I felt like was important for our people. Embracing ourselves, loving ourselves, respecting ourselves is probably one of the most important things that we can do. And I saw myself contributing to that through teaching us how to embrace our natural hair, you know. So So, when I finally sat down and looked at those dates, I said, okay, well, maybe I can't find a date to do this. The first date I looked at was, guess what?
June
June
19th.
June the 19th, and she had no idea, and I didn't either. And I said, well, because every year moving from one place to another place until we ended up in Arizona after the Vietnam War, and I went to a Juneteenth celebration as a child in Arizona, and it was the greatest thing ever. Wow, Juneteenth, boy, what's that? And it was just great. But after I grew up and left Arizona, I never seen Juneteenth again. I forgot all about it. So when I saw that June the 19th date, I still didn't recognize Juneteenth. And I went ahead and I said, well, let me check to see what anybody else is doing on those dates, you know, that has to do with here. And when I hit that date, you know what happened? Bam, Juneteenth. And I was like, Juneteenth? God, I remember Juneteenth. Man, that was so much fun. I remember Juneteenth. And then I went further to think,
Hey, Eddie.
Atlanta don't even have a Juneteenth that I know.
How you doing?
Atlanta don't have a Juneteenth. Ooh, natural here.
Where you are? No. We're at around the corner.
That's my story. That's how
Yeah.
Juneteenth became Juneteenth Atlanta. The
Yeah,
first year I
courthouse
did it,
last night.
I remember I put all the advertising out. I still have my first flyer, and I was like this natural hair Juneteenth show. Yeah, the name
Right
was
around
a
the
lot
corner.
longer, but it was natural
Right around
hair
the corner.
and then the natural hair health,
It is,
beauty,
yes,
and
it is.
Juneteenth. And
Okay.
oh man, I think that was 2011. It was a rainy day. You know that the actual event came. I had got the whole big convention center. Had all of these vendors because you know I had a list of vendors and all of that from the National Hair Show. And I had all of these people and all of this stuff. It was just the greatest look you could ever see. It was a rainy day, and guess what? Nobody came. Maybe 20 people came to that show. And I remember sitting there looking out that window, the rainy window. Like, man, where they at? You know, where's all the people at? You know. And but it was a great show. I mean, we was there, you know, so we enjoyed it. And the guy y'all saw me walking around with, he was there, you know, and he's been with me. That was that's the real Wajid. He's actually the brother of my partner, whose name is Talia Wajid, who some of you all may know that name from the Talia Wajid products and the World Natural Hair Health and Beauty Show. But you know, I was determined. After that event was over, I sat down and I looked at it because I mean, I was being guided. I mean, I wasn't, the Juneteenth thing wasn't something that came out of my heart or came out of my mind. It came out of that woman giving me that date and me seeing that, and it was just given to me because I needed something. So then when I realized it took me a minute to realize what it was. And when I did, the next year we had Juneteenth Atlanta. Juneteenth, forget the hair part, because underneath the title of Juneteenth is everything that has to do with our people. Everything. Here, there's nothing excluded. Anything and everything that has to do with the people is underneath the umbrella of Juneteenth. And so when I realized that, I was like, Juneteenth Atlanta, parade and music festival. That's it, you know. And so here, what, 9 years later, 8 years later, we had a Juneteenth on 12 acres at the Falcons, the Atlanta, what's the name of it? Home Depot backyard, Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the most expensive venue in the state of Georgia, $30,000 a day. We was there for 3 days in Juneteenth, and we had 12 acres. We had a 4-mile parade. We had people everywhere. Sheriff Ted Jackson, who is the sheriff of Atlanta, gives me everything for Juneteenth. We had every single sheriff in Fulton County on the streets, and they were telling me, you got people all down these streets, all over here, all over, everywhere. You need the medical people out here because people passing out, and da-da-da-da-da, and them people know who you are in the city now. That's what he told me. He said we had the whole city, the police departments, and everybody was on call, and oh, we got all these people out here and y'all got to come on. And normally they charge you for that. They couldn't charge you. I told them I wasn't expecting that many people. Cause one year nobody came. We had all of those people. So that's pretty much, I mean, there's a lot in between, of course, but I know we don't have all day just to hear, about Juneteenth dance, but that's my story. And I'm so, and I must put in this part when I met Doc, was through just me continuing my research. So after I started doing the Juneteenth, I was looking at other stuff that had to do with Juneteenth, and I came across the organization. And so I said, maybe I need to be a part of something like this right here. And I filled out the application. But what happened, I sent it to the wrong one because there was another one. I don't know who it was. I can't remember right now. It was another one. And I sent it out, and I never got any kind of response. And I was like, man, I don't know if I need to, waste my time with this right here. And then I ended up looking at it again because I was looking for a phone number, and I realized there was two. And then so I got the right one. I called up, and I got Doc on the phone. And man, that was it. He got to telling me all this stuff. He got to telling me all this stuff, and I was telling him, and he started telling me, asking me, do I know this person, and do I know that person, and do I know John Lewis, and just, well, you need to go see him, and I'm going to make you the state director of Georgia, and I'm like, man, who is this guy? Like president of Juneteenth, and you going to make me this and make me that? And so he had me all hyped up on all this stuff, and he was giving me this direction, and he was just a lovable person. Regardless of what we were talking about, just the way that from the first time I spoke to him, he embraced me as a brother, I never met the man, and I love him. To this day, I never met him, just like I never met this man. You the one I had mixed up with. That. What's your name?
I'm Dion.
See, I told you.
Yes.
I thought, okay, I got it.
I'm glad to hear in person.
So everybody, I'm just meeting, for the first time, but we're on the phone. We're on the phone. Sometimes I'm not on the phone. Y'all know that. So anyway, and this is great for me to be here right now, today, and be able to share my story with you of how, the Most High, the ancestors brought Juneteenth into this spirit, and every challenge that I've had to do Juneteenth in Atlanta, which I've heard people on the call saying, well, how do you do this and how do you do that and how do you get these people to come? I had all those same issues. And I just always knew one thing. If you represent Juneteenth, you ain't got to worry about none of that. All you got to do is really depend and accept that all our ancestors is right there supporting, pushing. We have the spirit of our ancestors marching with us and pushing with us to honor them. And that's what I always depend on. Whatever challenge I come up upon, whether it be money or whatever, I just go, I ain't worried about it because I know my ancestors is rolling with me. I know that. And that's what I give all the credit to. And I really truly believe that. If we just take that spirit of our ancestors, because look at what they had to endure for us to even be here today. And so what we're doing is simple. We just got to keep on pushing. Just keep on pushing. Don't be discouraged. And there's Juneteenth it is now, but it will be known as the greatest celebration in America because if slavery was the worst thing. I mean, what is the worst thing that ever happened in America's history against the people? It's got to be slavery. There's nothing worse than that. Who wants to be a slave? Can I see a show of hands? Like anywhere in the world. Nobody. So if that was one of the worst things that ever happened in America's history, then what is the best thing? One of the best things, and that's what Juneteenth represents, freedom. Well, what's more important than freedom? So it's just an honor to be a part of it, and that I was blessed to receive that direction. And to be here today to meet all of you all is really something special. I didn't even know, and I'm sorry to be MIA and not always be on the calls and not responding to what you're asking for. I apologize, I really do. But I've been busy. I've been busy. But now that I got a chance to come here, I was thinking about this last night and see faces and meet people and the love and the passion that everyone shares. And Juneteenth, everything I'm hearing that. I heard it last night.
All things
Juneteenth,
All things.
all things Juneteenth.
That's right.
Same thing. I'm so inspired. I'm even further inspired. And I feel like I'm fortunate to be here with you all right now. And I appreciate you for allowing me to come up and speak for a second.
You know, I feel the love. I have felt the love of everybody in here. With God in front, He gonna give us everything we need.
Amen.
He gonna open a door. And we gonna even expect it, but He gonna take care of us. I'm
That's
telling you.
right.
So I just feel the love, I was tell you that. We need you.
I receive. I love this guy right here.
I like to have around, my phone, because all my friends are taller than I am. Every expensive. The only one that's not tall, all the rest of my friends are 6'6", 6'8". I'm
Really? You look like this guy I used to dump on. I'm just kidding, man. I feel a long guy.
Okay, listen, we got a couple of programs. We're gonna kind of abbreviate this program to get it together. Since we only have this many people, we're gonna kind of change the breakout session around while I go figure out what happens to a couple of people. So the first thing we're gonna do, we talked about it once, and so since we got both people into the room, and I'm not sure where he's at, I think he might be going there. We're gonna do a brief introduction to Juneteenth 101, okay? And the facilitator for it is gonna be right here, Ms. Brown. And she's got Dr. Turnipseed in her side pocket. This one.
You got this? No, Dr. Tennessee got this. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Give me no rough time. Oh.
Yeah, John, hold on.
How great is
I actually got a new laptop on the car. John Mosley. What? John? Uh-huh. Yes, that was Bob Johnson.
track you down.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yes, I did, Coffee. Yeah, I've got them. I'll look for the rest of the mail. I'll look for the rest of the mail, Shirley. Thank you.
I can start. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Again, my name is Penny Brown, for those who just came into the room and weren't here when I did my introduction earlier. As I stated, I am very new to the National Juneteenth Observance Foundation. As a matter of fact, it's probably been within the last year that I really started getting familiar with this organization, because I met Steve. And then, you know, he kept on telling me about NJOF. I was like, well, what is NJOF? So, he finally told me what it was, what he does with NJOF. And I said, you know what, this seems like a very interesting organization to be a part of. And that's when I got the brainstorm to have all of the flag raises at as many plantations in the state of Maryland as I can get to agree to it. One gentleman said, well, why don't you just raise the flag at the courthouse? I said, no, that's okay. I want to do the plantation because I think so much offense was done there, right? That we need to give it some type of positive spin. So, at any rate, I digress, but I just wanted everyone to know who I was, who just came in. So, with Juneteenth 101, Abraham Lincoln, as you know, and you can hear various people tell you different things about who Abraham Lincoln was. Some don't believe he actually ever freed a slave, whereas others now know, especially due to the work of Carl Adams, looking up Nance and doing research in there, that he did actually free a slave. He freed a slave before he ever became president. So, that's something that you can do your additional research on, but I just wanted to put that out there, that he did indeed free slaves. Okay. But he accepted the Republican nomination for president of the United States, which this was a pivotal time, because the main thing that was at stake at this time was slavery. You had those who wanted to abolish slavery. You had others who wanted to make sure that we were never free. They wanted slavery to be a lifetime for the rest of everybody's life thing, because it benefited those who had the money with free labor, right? Because everything that was done in America was done on the backs of slaves, right? So he wanted to take their money away by saying, let's free the slaves, let's abolish slavery. He wanted to take the money away. So, of course, people didn't want to lose their money. Similar to what we're seeing today. People don't want to change their way of life, right? You know, if they give us the equality, right, that we're supposed to have, and things of that nature, stuff go away. A lot of stuff go away. Their money goes away. And that's what was happening here, really. The money was going away. So, then you had the wonderful people who decided, I ain't letting them go. I made up my mind that we are entitled to own them. They are our slaves. I am not going to let them go, right? So they decided to succeed. There were 7 states that decided to succeed because they wanted to hold on to their slaves, right? Imagine not wanting to be a part of a country anymore because you don't want to let people be free. You want to continue to grind them into the ground, because that's what was happening with slavery. Grind them into the ground to benefit you and your way of life. Not that they ever had a life, you could care less if they had a life, because to you, they were simply property. They were not people. They had no say-so, they did what they were told, and that was it. And if they didn't do what they were told, well, we won't even get into all the repercussions of what would happen to them at that point. Okay, so, where's my presentation?
Oh,
Not that I'm going verbatim anyway, because my time was cut short. So, when Robert Hardy Smith gave the address to the citizens of Alabama with the Constitution laws in the Confederate States, he made it perfectly clear why he wasn't while he was against letting slaves go. They had a right to us, they owned us, we had no say so, right? So, let me open up some big woman, so own this thing. Okay, so, but of course, Lincoln wanted us free, we wanted to be free, there were other people that wanted us to be free as well, right? So, Frederick Douglass, so of course, now that they've succeeded, a war is gonna start. That's what always happens. You want what you want, I want what I want, we're gonna fight it out, right? So, Frederick Douglass told Lincoln, well, why don't you enlist some of the black people? Who has a better right or more of a right to fight for their freedom than the ones who are enslaved? But at the time, they didn't want to bring in the blacks. You know, it was only after. Okay. Once he said, then they decided, okay, people are dying, more and more whites are dying. We're going to go ahead and consider them, let them fight for their own freedom. We always wanted to fight for our freedom, right? And I'm saying we because, I mean, I wasn't there, but my ancestors were. The thought of how some things are going on now, I still feel like slavery exists. And people can say it doesn't, because you're able to do a few more things than you once upon a time to do. But on many levels, slavery still exists, right? So I'm one of those that want to fight too. Okay, so in 1862, on June 19th, the chapter 111, an act to secure freedom to all persons within the territory of the United States. Does this apply to everyone? All blacks at the time? Anyone else?
No.
It's just a territory, right? So, there was a little loophole with some of the stuff that they came up with to give us our freedom. Number one, if you didn't succeed from the union, right, then what you did didn't apply. You know what I mean? You know, that didn't apply to you. Another thing, they came up with the loophole that still chokes and binds us to this day. What is that? The prison system, right? Your new day slavery. Okay? So, I digress. Trying to get a whole lot of stuff in here. But once they put in there otherwise than in punishment of crime, every time you turn around, a black person was breaking crime. Breaking the law, right? They walking down the street with no ID, no paper. You're a vagabond. I can lock you up. I can lock you up for years. I can force you to work and work and work and work for years. That was a terrible loophole. But we have a lot of loopholes. And we have a lot of people that work towards finding those loopholes. So what do we need to do? We need to work to close those loopholes. Yes.
I know that we'll look at it very closely every year, whoever becomes president has a way to put us in prison. Okay, the Clinton said, was it 3 strikes and you're out? Your current day Biden said, he's the one that authored the law 1994, mass incarceration. Every year, each president makes it possible to keep on putting, for 400 years, each one of them has something to do to keep us in prison every time one of them comes in. You understand what I'm saying? It's set up to keep us in prison. Now, Biden, and I don't want to harp on it, and Trump both. One is bad as the other. So they working together. They put 2 people up there to run for president, but neither one of them gonna have a vow. We don't even have a platform. They want our free votes and no platform. And each year, to your point, it's set up to keep us in prison.
Keep us in prison. It is. But, okay, so what can we do, right? Because it's something that can be done. What can we do to ensure that we're starting to make some better decisions for us as a whole? Yes.
I'd just like to add, as a part of our Juneteenth event, and when my brother was talking about, divine inspiration and all of that, one of the things we make sure is that it's not only a celebration or commemoration.
Right.
So we use our Juneteenth as that platform, one, to develop a Black agenda, to share that agenda, and then we have workshops throughout the month, and now we're going to do them throughout the year to highlight an aspect of that work and to take it straight to the governor and hold them accountable. Straight to the city council and hold them accountable and remind us, because I have to remind people that look like me that it's not our job to do all of this work. We didn't create it. And so those that are in office, those that are the directors of human resources, human services, the correction system, hold them accountable for undoing the mess that they've created. And we oversee the work, but that's not my job. I'm not getting paid to do your job, and I'm not going to do your job for you. I will give you some input. I will tell you if I think it's right or wrong, but we want to let people off the hook and go, oh, I'll do this. No, you're going to do your job.
Okay, but who puts them in these positions? We put them in the position. Everybody talks. Yes.
But anyway, my thing this year, along with people sales this year, my thing this year is proportionate political representation. And that means if we're 13% of the population of the United States, I believe we should be holding 13% of the elected positions. So I push for blacks to run for elected positions. We have to, we're spiritually taxation without representation. Yes, as you know, we have 100 United States senators in the United States. Guess how many blacks? 3.
Right.
Never had a black governor in the state ever. So all these things, we're not holding up elected positions. And I think that is important to put our people in these positions. And if they don't do what they're supposed to do, what's better than the people, then we need to get them out in the best we put them in. But we have to put people in these positions because we are residing in the country and we have to have representation because we're going to have presidents, we're going to have United States senators, we're going to have all these positions filled ready to be like that. So we might as well start putting people in that have our agenda, not only in mind, but are implementing our agenda.
Right.
So I think that is something that we can all entertain in our community, no matter what state we're in, is to, include executive officials or candidates. I had a black governor running, a black governor came, black executive candidate, and I was thinking, like, Kim, I heard about Kim, our attorney, Kim Warner. I was her, my new team, and she worked great, and the people that candidates that all of them, I said they worked because they came to the new team, but thank you.
Kim Gardner is known nationally now because of the racism and tax that she's been facing with the entire police department. And all the black circuit attorneys, they came to her rescue. It's this big thing because there are a lot of racism here in St. Louis. And so Google her when you get a chance. But I pushed Kim, and she supported our 2016 Juneteenth. And so anyway, I've been pushing her all along. Push her to get, every year. I mean, all her events, I talk about her all the time. I support her. And I think that's what we can use our platform for as well. Because like you said, it's not our job to do everything. But we have to get people in these positions that so
so they can do their job.
Okay, let me
And
jump,
we also like
jump.
in the copyright and law.
Coffee, can you hear me? You guys hear me? Hello?
May I say something?
Oh, yeah, yes, I can. I have myself muted.
Oh, yeah.
Hello?
Okay.
All right, we have a special guest on the phone right now, and I'm gonna cut my time and schedule off. Caleb, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Say that again. I'm doing good, Caleb. Can everybody hear Caleb?
I can hear you. How you doing?
Okay, so I'm gonna try to put you in a speaker here in person. I'm gonna jump ahead out of order right now. We have on the phone Caleb Gilchrist. He is Danny Davis's chief of staff. Caleb has been extremely helpful with us in the legislation process. He kicked off a lot of stuff for us in the House that helped us vocal out. And he is a specialist in a certain type of legislation. It's called the commemorative coin legislation. And Caleb?
Yes, sir.
Hold on. Keep talking, Caleb. Deputy Chief of Staff. Okay.
Around the effort that you were doing as it relates to Juneteenth. Now, when I talked to
We somehow got on the idea of commemorative coin. And it's an interesting process about commemorative coin because it allows the United States Mint to mint coins commemorating certain periods of American history. And we really, as a people, don't necessarily have a lot of, we have some centered around commemorations of our efforts and contributions to this nation. And so I had mentioned to him initially about some of the efforts and there are some challenges anytime you decide that you want to do a commemoration around coinage. One of the agencies that are profitable, there are probably two of the agencies that are profitable in government, and one of them is the U.S. Mint under the Treasury Department. They make a profit, and when they mint coins under the context of a commemorative, that's a profit-making process, not only for the mint, but also for the sponsoring organization, because the sponsoring organization of a commemorative coin gets money. And usually these sponsors are nonprofit organizations. And if some of them sell 1 million coins, this can add up to hundreds of thousands of dollars for that particular organization. It all depends on what is their funding and how they want to raise funding as a result of using a government entity to do a commemorative coin or a set of coins. And so a lot of time and effort takes place. The caveat is that we need 2/3 of the United States House of Representatives to be co-sponsor of a legislation. And then you need 2/3 over on the Senate to be a co-sponsor of the legislation. And usually when you have those two chambers coming together saying, yes, we want to do a commemorative coin on a particular project, only 2 a year are allowed. Only 2
wanted to do commemorative poems. And so whoever can get first, 2/3 of the House, 2/3 of the Senate, to sign off as a co-sponsor and then to actually vote on this particular legislation, because it has to be produced under the guise or under the aegis of a bill, then chances are it will come to fruition. And I'm willing to facilitate any questions that you may have around.
Anybody have any questions for Caleb about the commemorative coin commemoration,
How far along is the process at this point?
the legislation?
Yes. What does it cost to get the process going? And what
It
is,
doesn't cost, go ahead.
how we
I
start?
don't think you can finish your question, go ahead.
How does we start and what does it cost to get it going?
Okay. It costs nothing. It will cost you nothing. The only thing that it will cost you is time and effort as far as what all you want to put into bringing this legislation to fruition. It's initiated by a member of Congress. Member of Congress will design and put together the legislation. And when he puts that, he or she, when they put together that legislation, then you have to decide the introduction period. But really, all of the work will come upon the supporters, because you have to get members of Congress to co-sponsor the bill. And members like to hear from their constituency. And when they hear from their constituency, they generally will sign on to the bill because, number one, it will not cost the federal government anything. And number two, they are fulfilling the wishes of their constituents. Any other reasons why they would not want to sign on to would be basically not substantial, not valid. Members feel that commemoratives are not very harmful. That is, if they understand that this will not cost the taxpayers any money.
In the process right now, the legislative team has started and has been writing, Connie Johnson's on there, Ron Brown, other people have started writing the story to marry the 13th Amendment and Juneteenth together. And we're talking with the Sessions Confiscation Act, which we're talking about, and the Contraband Village, how that forced the 13th Amendment to be passed. There was actually our actions. If you don't know where Portsmouth, Virginia is at, the first place that black people landed at, it was also the very first place that the 3 black men escaped for freedom there and were held there. And when their owner came to try to get them, he said, no, we confiscated them. They're now going to be enlisted in the United States service. Just a short time after that, Lincoln started the Second Confiscation Act, which incorporated the United States colored troops. When we put together Juneteenth 101, that great document, Dr. Taylor, Dr. Frank Smith, all of them loved it, except for the one thing which they really impounded upon me, and that was America and us, especially our people. And we do not pay homage to those 220,000 black men who went with guns and marched. We talked about it in the beginning, but we need to really pay emphasis on that, because every place that they went, they defeated that enemy. And they need to be held up and they need to be talked about a lot more than that. So that's part of what we're doing with the marriage of the 13th Amendment and Juneteenth with that commemorative coin. The key fact what he's saying is this, is that when we call you guys up and we tell you, call your congressmen and tell them to support this legislation, we need you to call your congressman and tell them to support the legislation more than once. Then when we tell you to call your senator and tell them to support this legislation, we need to call it more than once. All your calling that you guys have done over the years, all the information that we fed to Caleb, and we fed to the different chiefs of staff that come from here, has got Juneteenth on Capitol Hill to where it's at right now. They understand it. You know, he's in conversation with Carl. Caleb talked with Carl. He's like, hey man, I didn't know this, because the colored troops that freed Texas were from Illinois and New York. You know, so when we call, the key thing is that once we get this together and the legislation is ready, the grassroots part is you guys. That's what we call, because we have the mechanism. That's exactly. So when we call you guys, that's the grassroots part, okay? To get those legislators to hear from you. And it doesn't take a lot of them to hear, because they figure for every phone call that they get, there's 20 to 30 other phone calls behind them, okay? So it makes a difference. Anybody else got a question for Caleb? Go ahead, Betty.
In terms of the time frame, I know like everything else, is there a particular cycle that it has to run through? Are we now working for next year's congressional
Caleb?
cycle?
Yeah,
Is there a particular time frame? What's the time frame?
concerning legislation, time frame on that is wherever you all decide to do it. If you want to commemorative coin, you need to start just a little bit before the next year. Like, let's say you want a commemorative coin 2 years from now. You need to start that. Building that process. You can do a commemorative, remember, you do 2 a year. Okay? And so that means basically, we're going to start the new Congress for the 117th Congress, which will start in January when the members come back. And if you plan on doing one for 2021 or 2022, you need to start now. I should say yesterday. Because it's going to take some effort, some networking, some collaboration. Now, let's back up on the point that you had mentioned, Steve. When a congressional office gets at least 20 calls, that's not a lot, but it's a lot to let them know, I got people interested in this subject matter. So if you can produce 20 calls per office, chances are it will go up the flagpole to either the legislative director, to the chief of staff, or even the member of Congress himself. So the more calls on a particular subject matter, the more letters, has a tendency to rise up to the members themselves to pay attention and to take notes. And this would be an easy one because it's not costing them anything. It's costing them, what it does is to say, hey, these are 20 plus votes I got from people that are interested in this subject matter. And it may be 100 or 1,000 people interested in the subject matter, but only 20 people called about it. And we have to begin to understand that the voices of 10 people is more powerful than the silence of 10,000 people. So you have to make your voice heard with members of Congress for them to act.
Can you revisit how it is that NJOF will benefit financially?
We'll be the sponsoring organization.
Yeah.
So when you write the bill, they allocate the proceeds, the revenue from that to the sponsoring organization.
Do we get guaranteed?
Correct.
Yeah,
Do we have guaranteed people to participate where we can get guaranteed money?
yes. Yeah, it's a percentage and it's written in
What
there.
is the percentage?
The percentage varies, as a little form that they have in there. The present bill was written to give money to the African American Museum and Natural History. So we're gonna rearrange that in the way that we wrote it so that we get some benefit out of the money also.
I'm asking about the guarantee. Is it guaranteed that they will actually sell this coin where we can guarantee?
Yes. Yes, they will actually sell the coin. They actually put it out every year they do it. It's a big business. It's about $600 to $800 million every year that they do the commemorative coins. And then your sponsoring organization, we're the sponsoring organization. And we would get the money as part of that's how it's written into the bill. So when you write stuff into the bills and legislation, just like in our current legislation that is civil capital appeal, right? One of the things required that we ask the government to do is to fly the Juneteenth flag.
So wait, back to the money part. Now, since we're the sponsoring organization, can we stipulate that that money comes to us and we distribute from there, as opposed to them distributing?
That's the only way it would go.
So right now, it's written in that the museums will benefit?
We know that's the way it was written. It was in that, the original bill for the 13th Amendment coin that Caleb had, was the proceeds from that went to the National, the American Museum of African American History in Washington, D.C. It was written, but he gave us the bill, and we're rewriting it, and the legislative team put in there, and we put ourselves in there as part of the subsidy for the money.
Not part, I'm saying that it would come to the sponsoring organization.
Yes.
And we would be obliged to distribute it
Correct.
accordingly.
You just
said the museum would reap the benefits.
Used to be.
It used to be, okay.
Right.
So it can be rewritten where NJOF is
Yeah,
the
that's it.
entity where it
That's
is
it,
coming.
that's what we do.
And with the promise that it gets distributed to.
It comes to us, and we do what we have to do.
So are you saying with the guarantee, so far in the past, all of these guaranteed homes have reached a certain amount? Is it a guarantee that we get a certain amount from this, or is it all of them always do the benefit, the same amount? You understand what I'm saying? Going back home
It's
doesn't
based
do that
upon the
well.
sale.
Okay, I'm just saying, suppose our home doesn't do that well as far as sales.
We'd have to push it.
Yeah, it's based upon the sale. So, but the way it's done, the organization that's done this, regardless of the American Revolution, they did it, and they ended up printing the Super Bianchi, and they bought a building downtown.
And
They
built
have
all
a
these
hotel.
old crazy Confederate monuments.
Yeah, that's where the money came from. And so now we're on the inside track of our opportunity to take advantage of it. And this is the one body of people who have the mindset and the mentality and the reach to get it done.
I just want to maintain control over those properties.
We will maintain control over it. That's the reason why we're doing it.
And I just want to guarantee the sales, so we'll have something.
So we have to do something.
Yeah, somebody got it. I can't talk to you. I can use them, but I'm here. Then that's it. Yes. Any other questions for Caleb? I want to let him go.
Yeah, okay. Caleb, what's your name, what's your full name again? I'm sorry, we just, I didn't do that.
Caleb Gilbert.
Do we have assurance that his congressman, who is it, Danny Davis, will,
Dan Davis is our man.
Yeah.
He was our first man.
So we do have
Before she was Jackson Lee, it was Danny Davis.
Can we have a step-by-step plan on how to go forth and get it started?
That's what we are way beyond that. With the legislation team been working on this for since
so how many
January.
other congress people have expressed interest in sponsoring and supporting?
There was a big list. We haven't listed the initial, but it wasn't enough to get it done. So we need 2/3, and we're the organization that can get it done. Let's say, call your congressman in Mississippi and make them do it. Call your congressman in
He got
Oklahoma.
something.
Go ahead, Caleb.
Let me comment on that. When I met with the people from the Smithsonian National African American History Museum, they embraced the idea. They are not allowed to lobby members of Congress. And we could not find any outside organizations that are willing to sit down and see this through. Coin commemoratives come into existence because they are organizations that call members of Congress, meet with them, and say, I want you to sponsor the bill. I'll give you an example. There's the World War II memorial. When you go and see the World War II memorial, there's decay. Some of those statues, some of those monuments are decaying and it needs repair. There's an organization that's a nonprofit, 501c3, that goes and meets with all of the members of Congress. They met with my office. I actually talked to them. They want to use the money that's collected from the coin to repair the monument. And the reason how this comes into being is that you need people to meet with appointed and you need 100 senators. So they got a constituency that is pushing it. And the more of a constituency that pushes this, that's what brings it to fruition.
I have a comment.
I'm sorry to talk this out.
No problem, Caleb, no problem, Caleb.
Okay, I was the first African American legislative aide in the state of Oklahoma. So I'm a little bit familiar
So
with
it's
the
up to
process.
you all. It's up to the groups
You gotta
that
speak
want
up.
to say, yeah, I'm willing to call my member of Congress. But it has to be organized. And so our agency, like the Smithsonian, can't go and lobby members of Congress. Even though they were slated to get the proceeds, they can't argue for it. But you all can, as a nonprofit organization, saying, hey, we have members that are interested in this, and we're going to call our member of Congress to see to it that they co-sponsor the bill.
My suggestion is that, we're a national organization, so we can select any senator to be the major sponsor of the bill. I suggest that we contact the most powerful senator in the Congress because they can whip all the other senators. So,
Kamala Harris.
No, that would be, that's what happened with Markey. Markey Ursufit. In 25 years, he's a senior person, he's a Democrat. That's how he did the bill and got a Title V. Because he took it and said, hey, Mitch McConnell and John Cornyn, I got more seniority, I want you guys to sign on to this bill. That's what happened. So that happens all the
that's
time.
my suggestion to find the most
And so
powerful.
we have contacts into those people, and we have the lobbying into those people. That's why these things were there. All we got to do, and I just wanted you guys not to hear it from me, but to hear from somebody who's an expert about what to do and how it can be done. I touched on this a couple of months ago about how we can go about the process, but I wanted you to hear from Caleb how the process goes, and we've been working slowly on it with the legislation team and writing up the findings, the 13th Amendment and Juneteenth together. So now it's a matter of bringing that out and have everybody get together in a concerted effort to lobby your legislators to get it done. We've been doing it for Juneteenth all the way throughout now, and that's where it's got to elevate it in Congress.
Wait a minute, are you saying to amend the amendment?
No.
The 13th, what is it?
No, the 13th Amendment.
Yeah.
I said the 13th Amendment and Juneteenth, we married the two together. The 13th of Juneteenth and the 13th Amendment, and we married the two of them together. How they're both two sides of the same coin. One side is legislative, one side is enforced by us. And two sides of the same coin. The legislature say, hey, y'all free. Don't mean anything until it's actually done. It's actually done by the
You're saying on the coin itself.
on the coin. It's a biannual coin. One side of the coin is the 13th Amendment, the other side of the coin is Juneteenth. And we married the two of them together through the letter, and I will push it out for you guys as it gets finished. If you know, y'all know Connie and you know Ron, and they're just like, no, not until it's ready do we put it out. So, and there's a couple of people that are involved in the team, but we have that. The part that we need from our people here is when we say push, and I'll do it just like Doc used to do it. I'll call up a senator or a congressman. I'll say, I got your constituent Penny Brown on the phone, Congressman Maryland.
Do we have anything in our package that speaks to all of this and has details it out?
No, we didn't put it in the packet yet. I just wanted Caleb to come on and talk to everybody else.
We need to see how you have articulated the proposal so that we can get.
Right.
And
Go ahead, Caleb.
One of the things I think is the
Go ahead.
organization would have to also have some people available to be able to sit down with the U.S. men and work with them on the design, because they already have scope and design of the course.
Mhm.
But you have to have some people that will be willing to take time out. This is going to require time of your organization.
Say that.
Take time out and help them see your vision in terms of how to design these courses.
We can get the HBCUs behind this
That's
thing.
once the legislation is passed.
I think something more.
Right now, have any of you seen the Juneteenth coins?
No.
You ever seen the Juneteenth coin that's already been? That was put by Ted Ellis. You know Ted, right? You know Ted? He's before work. He's also a commissioner on the 400-year commission.
No.
flag?
No, Ben Hayes designed the
Hey,
flag.
yeah, hey, yeah.
Ben Hayes designed the flag, Ted Ellis designed it. Do you have any of the coins, Steve?
Didn't bring one with me.
Didn't bring one with you.
But they're beautiful, and we've used them multiple times for awards and for different events. So you're talking about revising the coin that already.
Well, no, Ted's got experience with designing coins and minting and printing. He's already in the family. He's on the 400-year commission for the African American history. He's already on the commission. So, and he has that insight in there. So he's already agreed to help take the lead to sit down with that design part. We have a lot of the components in place that we've been working in the background, but the biggest component that we need is you guys. Sherry Bailey.
My second suggestion is naming the coin. Naming the name will be significant because it has to have a broad appeal so that Americans will buy the coin, not just African Americans.
Right.
So I suggest we have a committee to come up with the name, and I want to reiterate, we need to identify, and I know Congress is going to change after November 3rd. We need to see who is the most upcoming person that's going to be the most powerful.
Well, right now, we have channels open, dialogue open with most of the senators. I know most of their chief of staff. And the one that is the guy to get behind it, probably the most to lead, would probably be Tim Scott. Okay? Tim Scott.
Republican?
Black Republican from South Carolina.
I don't know about that.
I don't know.
But here's the thing, following up with what you just suggested, I definitely want to sit on that committee. But, coin of freedom, coin of emancipation, or whatever, giving it a proper name is really important.
Can we
So
just,
that
can we set a
appeals
committee? Let's
to,
get the committee to have all this.
yeah, because it does need to appeal to the American narrative, the whole.
The whole American, yes, and we had that, and so we'll get the information out to you guys. I want to have that. We have one side of it, which we worked out with the Buffalo soldiers, born from Juneteenth, because the Buffalo soldiers were born from Juneteenth, and it would have one of the broadest out of the field. But the team's been working on this in the background a lot.
What team? Ooh.
The legislative team and a couple other teams that meet every week. Okay, we've been working slowly along with.
Maybe have a listed committee so we'll know who's working on it.
That's a separate committee, and we'll bring a separate committee in, but it's all, we constantly got things working going forward. It's time good for our legislation, to where it's at, okay? So, and we keep our foot on the pedal, we'll be okay, and we have people in Congress and in the Senate that know who we are, they know how thorough work that we do, and they have appreciated what we've done.
But what about our committee? We need a base here. We know, you're talking about.
We have a legislative committee, we have committees. No, we have committees all across the nation, and they meet, Rosetta. It's
I
like,
can look, we have names listed in the group here. The
Yes.
National Juneteenth.
yeah, that's in the committee, and they're not here. Connie's not here, she's one of them, you guys know her. She's on there, she meets every week, Ron meets every week, but Donnie gets on the phone call and helps out. We have different people meeting all the time, it's an ongoing process. Just
It would
like,
have been really wonderful, though, to have a report or the proposal so that we can, committees, if they got to deal with that.
yes, this was gonna be a tinier discussion of economics, but I had asked him to come on a couple times to bring the subject addressed. And yes, we will send out the proposal that we have to you, but the legislative team won't let go of the legislation yet. They're still holding it, so.
Well, I'd like to nominate.
It is connected to economics, because if we get the coin, we're gonna have.
I would like to suggest that we put, since Dr. Little has experience, she's the one that got the stamp for Rep. Ellison Library. She's got the stamp, what was his name? Rep. Ellison. And so she has information, I think she needs to be on this committee to bring us the report back.
We'll bring another committee together to discuss that part. We have another committee that's been meeting, they've been working on this since January, okay? Phone calls, like this Juneteenth committee been meeting for 2 years, every Wednesday. So it's an ongoing process, and that's what we just wanted to bring this out to you guys, that's been going on, it's been in discussion, and now we're ready to bring more people involved into it. Okay?
So the timeline on getting the proposal to the full committee, so that, I mean, we were supposed to, like Caleb was just suggesting
Started
yesterday, so.
Yeah. First of all, let me just get this. How many people like the idea?
Great idea.
Okay.
I do.
Okay. So we will develop from there. Now that you've got a second three, we will develop from there. Caleb's an expert at writing. He's going to help us with the legislation in the House. We got a couple people in the Senate that are going to help us, okay? But we're just going to introduce you guys to it, okay? And I want to let them go because it's a Saturday. Caleb? Thank you very much for calling in, brother. Anybody got any last question for him?
Yeah, also, I think the business person headquarters, would Caleb, would he be a contact person for me if I'm trying to get a point later on that? Would there be a contact, would I be able to go through Caleb or is, inclusive for Juneteenth?
I'll call you properly. We'll talk about it, okay?
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
I
Caleb.
don't have a feel of connection with somebody that we know. See, all these people are on a farm. We don't have any contact with them. We need somebody within our group that we can feel comfortable like it's part of us.
All these people are within our group. The legislative committees from this group.
Are they meeting with us like we are now?
They have met with us before, Ron, in
Maybe I'm
Philadelphia.
the only one that feel like.
Excuse me, if you will refer to your book with the Juneteenth flag on the cover, if you have a copy in your package, we have a listing of all the committees and their members. So,
These are people that are here. I mean, Sam Collins, Ron Brown, Connie Johnson.
Check
These
your
are people
folder. I don't
who
know
are
if it's in the
Juneteenth
folder or
member
not.
family
So
people.
they're all.
They're all
It
here.
might be
They're us.
outside.
Okay? They're all us. Everybody we do, they're all us. Work with us.
What can we put down?
What does it look like?
I'll report.
Can we put Dr. Little on the committee?
Doctor, when we start that committee, we'll put that committee. That's what we're going to be putting that committee together. And later going, we have a legislative committee that's concerned with writing and work with education. So now we're going to have a coin committee that will put the coin committee together, that will take the written legislation and then push it forward in the coin committee. And they will be in charge of naming the coin, sending the phone calls, identifying the senators, and working through the whole legislative process. Okay? We wanted to introduce it in a smaller platform and get it going.
So then the real projection is 2022.
2021,
2022
maybe.
Yeah.
Just depends on how
I mean, that's
fast.
realistic.
Yeah, how fast and how diligent they want to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have they done research on how arduous that process is? Because if you only have 2 a year, it's going to be a very competitive
Caleb,
process.
he's expert. It's already there.
We're not ready for that.
Yes, Bob?
How much money you trying to raise? And where's the money going?
Unlimited.
Unlimited. And where is it going?
It goes to us to distribute. That's a whole other, it's a good problem to have. It's what we call a good problem to have. But yes.
Excuse me, I brought in sample programs for the annual meeting, $10. The one we're doing for the Juneteenth packet is $20. We'll just pass it around so everybody can get a look at it. They will be available out in the desk. Charlotte has them.
Okay. It is 1:00, 15 after 1, so let's take a break real quick. Okay? Our lunch.
Is our lunch ready?
Oh,
Hello, sorry guys, real quick.
Gee,
Your Juneteenth 101 is actually in the packet, please read it. If you haven't read your 13th, 14th, and 15th amendment, I suggest you do, I highly recommend it. I also recommend that you become more active in your local elections, not just the presidential, because it's the local elections that affect you directly every day.
You need to know who you're putting up there, how they vote on stuff that concern you, right? So,
Think globally, act locally.
right,
But here's the bottom line, we need to give them a platform. See, we all together, everybody got an idea. We need to come together as a group and get together president, and not have a platform them up. They're gonna do what they wanna do, and
That's why
advertise.
we're doing the planning sessions this afternoon
Right.
for 2021,
We need to
2022,
present.
2023. We're gonna
We
get
need to
together,
present each one of them presidents a platform speaking for all black folks
okay?
in unison and say, this is what we want. Right now, we don't even have a
As
platform.
I said, we can get together, we can talk about it. One of the things that I want to see on our platform is the education initiative. And you will see also in your package the Mississippi 2005 initiative that did not pass, which we need to amend and make a recommendation. That, as I mentioned it last night, I want to see it go to every state assembly for inclusion in your state programs. And that's what I would like to see as part of the Juneteenth initiative and that platform. I have a menu here if you want to order something. I didn't have a menu brought in for lunch. If you want to order something, we can pass it.
we were getting that lunch.
It was supposed to be bag breakfast. I don't know about the lunch. We can check on it. Give me a second on that.
The information that you gave us in, 101, is it, copyright or something, or?
It's what
Let me ask.
Excuse me.
102, 101.
Would we be able to,
You can use the Juneteenth 101 is a product of the Juneteenth Education Group. It is available online. You can go to our website, www.njof.org. You can download it. You can print multiple copies of the 101. In fact, we have been requesting that you print out and distribute. We're currently working on the 12 steps, the next 12 steps, which should be coming out, we're a little bit behind. It should probably be coming out in the next month, maybe 6 weeks max. We're working on curriculum for Juneteenth. We're working on additional information picking up from that point. So that again is available information that is for the National Juneteenth Organization and for all of our state directors.
so we can use that information like we do workshops?
Yes, ma'am.
Classes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to make.
Yeah, that's why we put it out there. Any other questions? You've got my number, you got the 800 number, call us. But that's definitely available for your use.
I wanna know how lunch works.
We didn't plan anything for lunch.
How much time is around here for lunch?
Hey.
Maybe a working lunch. Maybe we working lunch
We're
fee.
out of context. Hey, listen, you guys, a lot of you guys, Doc Myers called me up and introduced me to you. Some of you I met over the phone, some of you different places, some that I didn't meet, he did that. And it was great, Doc called me up and said, you gotta meet Bernie. And I'm like, okay, hey Bernie, what's going on? And it was Ben Hayes called, I'm sitting there with Doc in the hospital, and I'm gonna go visit him the second time he's in the hospital. Ben Hayes called on the phone, he said, God told me to call, and Doc said, man, I couldn't find your number, I wanted you to meet Steve, and he was very enthusiastic. But there's one person who Doc introduced me to with an introduction unlike anybody else, okay? And he said, this is my everything guy. He said, if I need anything, this is the guy I go to. And he introduced me to him, we got on the phone, and we started working on the project. And then he was in D.C., and when he was in D.C., I got a phone call from my senator. He said, this man's in D.C., you think I got time to meet him? And I'm like, yeah, we'll see what we can do. And then I go home and Phyllis jumps over, I got to meet this guy. And then I bring him into church, and my pastor stops church and says, he's here. And like I said, when Doc introduced me to him, he said, listen, I deal with a lot of people, but when I need something here, I need to get it done. There's one person I call, Eddie Carpenter. Eddie.
I'm going to be brief. I know you're hungry. America, if you refuse me because I'm dirty, supply me with soap and water and I will cleanse myself.
America, if you refuse me because I'm ignorant, send me to school and I will educate myself. America, if you refuse me because I'm poor, supply me with a job and I'll better my condition. But America, if you refuse me because I'm black, you have to see God Almighty because He made me. All praise and honor due to God Almighty. Again, I will be brief, but there are some important things I want to share with you. To my friend, one of the greatest organizers on planet Earth, Brother Steve Lee. I was elected the first black mayor of a plantation town in Mississippi in the 70s. And sister, I had everything from the kitchen sink thrown at me being the first black mayor of a plantation town.
Oh, what?
Shula, Mississippi. Shula is located in central Mississippi. And the newspapers, Brother Steve, television, the legislature, everything came down on me. And I was eventually charged. I stayed in court the whole 3.5 years while I was mayor. Fight, and to carry out the duties of the mayor. Briefly, I went on tour across this country speaking about what had happened in Shula, Mississippi. They tried to kill me, send me to the gas chamber. And I went, one of the places that I spoke at is in Madison, Wisconsin, where Dr. Myers was a student in medical school. And I met him there. And Dr. Myers said, once I finish school, I'm coming to Shula, Mississippi. And lo and behold, one day, I run a business in Shula. I had a convenience store. And here comes Dr. Myers and the station wagon with all of his clothes and everything he owned was in that station wagon. He said, I'm here. And he set up office there in Shula, Mississippi to practice medicine. And Dr. Myers, I'm honored to be here with you. And I want to thank Brother Steve, who keeps me posted on everything that's going on. And I want to thank all of you for doing what you're doing. I grew up in the movement. My granddaddy used to take me to the civil rights movement in Mississippi. I was trained by Fannie Lou Hamer, Meg Everett, and Hartman Turnbow. You all may not know Hartman Turnbow. He and Fannie Lou Hamer were the first blacks to speak at a national Democratic convention. Come on now. And they told a story about blacks in the South wanting and needing the right to vote. Hartman Turnbow was one of the first in the state of Mississippi to register to vote. They bombed and shot into his house. Mr. Turnbow shot back.
Oh, I heard that.
He shot three deputies. And he lived across the railroad track. and they was running so fast. The sheriff jumped the track and lost his car tag. When the feds came in, that's how they discovered who shot and bombed Hartman Turnbull's house. Hartman Turnbull was a great leader, and so was Fannie Lou Hamer. And I'm proud to, I was about 13 years old, and I've been in the movement ever since, fighting for freedom. I just want to say this before I sit down. Hartman Turnbull and Fannie Lou Hamer established what is known as the Freedom Democratic Party. When they went to the Democratic Convention in Chicago in 1964, the Democrats in Mississippi, Eastland, and Stennis wouldn't let them be seated. So they organized the Freedom Democratic Party. Most of the members of the Freedom Democratic Party have passed on. And that's some of the work I'm doing now, Brother Steve. I got some young people that are coming on to be a part of the Freedom Democratic Party. Back in the day, if anybody in my county wanted to be elected to an office, they, black or white, they came before the Freedom Democratic Party. Whoever the Freedom Democratic Party endorsed, that's who got elected. But most of the members are older, and we got some young folks coming in. That's who I've been working with lately. Because now, since they have gotten older, we get all kinds of people in office, don't care nothing about the community, just interested in a job, and what they can get. Look out, bro. So, what they can get. But I'm working with those to reestablish the Freedom Democratic Party. And I want to say to you all before I go to my seat, I noticed there are not any young people. Hartman Turnbull, Fannie Lou Hamer, Medgar Evers, they picked up people like me when I was about 13. I want to ask that, you know, when you attend these meetings, you got some young folks in your community. You know, grab them by the hand, come on, go with me. It's just the mere fact that they sit in on a meeting like this, you'll be surprised what it would do for them. I want to thank you, and as I go to my seat, I want to say that we only have two things to worry about. Only got two things to worry about in life, Brother Steve. Whether or not you're a good person, or whether or not we're a bad person. If we're a good person, we don't have nothing to worry about. But if we're a bad person, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we're happy, or whether or not we're sad. If we're happy, we have nothing to worry about. But if we're sad, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we succeed, or whether or not we fail. If we succeed, we have nothing to worry about. But if we fail, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we're sick, or whether or not we're well. If we are well, we got nothing to worry about. But if we're sick, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we're rich, or whether or not we're poor. If we're rich, we got nothing to worry about. If we're poor, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we're old, or whether or not we're young. If we're young, we got nothing to worry about. But if we're old, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we live, or whether or not we die. If we live, we got nothing to worry about. But if we die, we got two things to worry about. Whether or not we're going to heaven, or whether or not we're going to hell. If we go to heaven, we got nothing to worry about. If we go to hell, we'll be so busy being all our friends, we won't have time to worry.
might not know it by his jovial disposition and his demeanor, but the marshals, the state troopers, the federal people from Mississippi came down to his county at gunpoint and told him to leave office. And told the county at gunpoint, you're gonna make him leave office, and not only gonna make him leave office, we're gonna make him pay back all the money we paid him and call him a criminal. Wow. Okay? They ran him out of office at gunpoint. Okay? Out of office. He's still in Tulip. He's still in Holmes County. He's still fighting for the people there. So whatever you might read can't be, because as my pastor told me, who I got a great respect for, who grew up in his shadow, understand who he was, and he's the one who fought to save the Harriet Tubman Memorial. And he got it directly from this man right here. You see the chain go down. You went to that memorial, right? My pastor came up under this man. And that's why we fought to get that memorial down, so the trickles down. So right now, he's in a fight. Okay, the guard is helping him. He's in a fight. So first of all, give Eddie your prayers. Amen. Okay. And then go find Free Eddie Carson, the Free Eddie Carson page. Okay. He didn't do anything. He was just trying to help us. And when you see the state of Mississippi roll down there at gunpoint, most were officers, and he told me, but then other people told me down there where after, okay, and run them out. You know you're doing something, and you got somebody of great fortitude in front of you. So I just had to let that be known, because he wasn't going to say nothing about it, okay? He's just going to grin and bear it and take it and keep on punching, okay? So the Free Eddie Carson Fund, and keep them in your prayers. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Eddie, thank you for coming. We really appreciate you. I've heard Doc speak about you many times, and I was on some of those calls with you and Doc. So I'm Deb, and we talked more than twice. We've talked many times over the years. And listening to you today, I know how you got to be elected, because I love your speaking tone. I love the message that you give. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so hey everybody, we're gonna pass around. We're gonna take a break for a second, try to regroup and get ourselves going. I got a little technical problem. I guess I gotta try to work on. Okay. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot. Let's get back in about an hour.
How much time for lunch?
An hour.
Steve, we can, if they order in lunch, just keep going. We're working on it. That's why I got to pass the menu if you want to do that.
I don't know if Dee's got something she was doing.
I'm just saying, if we can, if we can make up time. Come back. These are your subject matter experts. Those are ones I hear. I still got to get coffee. Sadie's in there. I ran Sadie's off.
Over the years.
All right.
I used that one.
Yes, yeah. So if you can match those together.
I got a question.
Hold on. Go ahead, we're kind of moving around. Yeah, we're gonna start it back when you get back from lunch.
Right, they're moving around.
I can't dial a number. Yeah, John. Who? Yeah, okay. I said, Bob. Oh, he's over there. Hey, Dad, where you at? Oh, okay.
Good to see you. Yep. It's going well. It's going well. Okay, you be careful. Okay. Take your time. Hello, sweetheart.
Bobby Brooks.
Does he have a social media page?
Probably does, yeah.
I got videos of him, I just wanna know what to say.
They now know Juneteenth. Can't say they don't know that. Get on there. I'll see you later. Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
We going to Central Barbecue for lunch?
Who?
Central Barbecue.
I don't.
Is that the, so we paid for that with the same PayPal meeting? Okay, now, I have the one for Miss Juneteenth. Okay.
Thank you.
I said, I ain't going to Memphis and not get no barbecue. We don't have to.
and, you know, and Rome, you do as Rome said. So I said, I'm in Memphis, I'm gonna eat me some Memphis
You
barbecue.
guard your Romans when it comes to barbecue, you got the Carthaginians.
I'm like, well, but I'm gonna take a taste of it, that's the Delaware with me.
The Romans are in Kansas City.
Oklahoma. Well, I'm from Tennessee, so I, Nashville, I can deal with the barbecue. There's a barbecue downstairs. It is on 147 East Butler Avenue. Let's see how far where that is. That's 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Who are you gonna bring it back, or you just pick it up, or you can get it?
I don't know what to do, I'm going downstairs to talk to my dad.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to meet him in there.
Okay, that's what's
You can't leave till I get pictures of y'all.
You wanna get a picture of y'all?
I want to get pictures of y'all.
Okay. Well, I can get another.
Finally, like.
There we go. Yeah, you get this piece of history. Smart. Wait a minute, you on video? Oh, I think you're on video.
Oh, no.
Hit this one?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. One more. Look up. Thank you.
Oh, I like your hook, stand up, I got it.
You got it? You got it?
No, I want the phone, come on in here.
Okay. Selfie. You know, you shrink, the older you get, the more you shrink. Brain power, brains pushing you down. Yes, indeed. That wisdom, push it right down. You try to take one?
No, I got it.
All right. Let me get my people.
Real cute.
You
Bob.
gotta go eat, okay.
Hey.
Not for the pageant book, I
One, two,
got
one, two,
that.
one, two.
But for the other book that you just passed around. Sample?
Yes, Charlotte's got the address for you to pay for.
Oh, okay.
You pay online, you pay, that's my card. Charlotte's got the information at the desk.
So it was broadcasting, I don't know what was happening, because Leon was on it.
be back, work with at 2:30.
They went to lunch?
They went to lunch.
Oh, okay.
But we're supposed to, hello? But we're supposed to be back at 2:30.
Yeah, this is, Miss Opal's granddaughter.
I met this first last night, and doing
Yeah, I missed it last night. I missed it last night. How your mom? Where mom?
He's fine. Well, let me get my purse. I'll come back at 2:30, you said?
they said an hour, and we kind of let loose at 1:30.
Okay. So Bob, you already ate lunch
I
or?
got lunch over there. I got. Find me another man, just keep my mouth. Hey, grandma, hi again.
Sam, it's lunchtime and I got the conference room for myself at the moment. But going pretty good. The girls got their makeup done and, we're halfway through the class schedule. I got a chance to see Silver a couple times. I've had some going back and forth. We're good. I think. I think so. We got a couple of these coordinators acting like bitches. Not the parents, the coordinators. One parent's talking about suing us if things didn't go the way they wanted, but then they didn't identify which one it was. They didn't, somebody said it, one of the parents said it, Daddy said that if they weren't having the wrong ticket to court, if they didn't get their scholarship money and yada yada. Well, come up with a damn $100. Nobody told me $5,000 bill, so that's their investment, they ain't mine. In fact, if you remember, I was talking out of. Talk her out of it. I just made it back. Hello. You okay?
Is this where we're supposed to be?
We're back. I'm back up here to figure out where the class is. Steve said he was gonna rearrange classes, so we'll see in a minute when he gets back. Oh, this little girl can call Margaret from the other. So, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure about the confirmation on the website, so I couldn't watch it and hear him talking. She's a recent person. 6 months maybe. Mm-hmm. She's short, she's fat, she's very sick, and she got crazy. I'm not sure I'm stuff on the one for me. That's okay. I told you about the kid. Like you say, you get together those girls and get back across the street. But it's okay.
Well, nobody get in here.
Like I said, I've been showing off. I'm wearing, I thought Chase was giving me the wrong dress, but I figured out, it is great. I thought it had a panel, but I figured out, when I put it on last night or this morning, that what I thought was a panel across the chest was a slip, it just hadn't gone all the way down. I'm like, this, no, but, so okay. That's what I'm wearing today, the more tissue dress with the long sleeves and put it down here. And, oh, man, that made a difference, they could talk about me for all weekend. I walked out last week, you called me up on the stage to thank you for all my work. And she was again, queen. I'm like, no, that's over. She said, you the queen. Everybody said, yeah, you the queen. And yeah. But like I said, I have to acknowledge and I have claimed my title. Yes, I am. And I've been dressing the part every day. She told me she's traveling to gold and black yesterday. And I'm like, this. Yeah, there still ain't nothing out here that seems to go, I may be along with you, but that's okay. See, I've been making, when I sat there and made a list of all that I've done in the last 2 weeks, waiting around for everything. But the meantime, I haven't been a cop. I said, I'm sitting because everybody was making a list of this, what they've done. And I said, just started making it my list of those last one to come up with, to make it else. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Come on, bro. Yeah. You know, because folks said that when I was established the NJOF and I'm a founding member of the Social Society, a board member, I'm a communications director, I'm a state director, we've done pageant, caravan, we brought in children. You know what I like to, I'm claiming. Now, this is good. This is good. Because I have something to tell you. Because all of the, like, they came to me like, oh, last year, hair shells were moving and t-shirts, I'm okay. I want pretty mommy. I'm sure my sure my hair. Oh yeah, that's what I told him after that. I brought my team in, who included the majority of my fashion consultant. So I pretty much think all of it. Okay. I will talk to you later on. What time is this show?
In just a few minutes.
Okay, we got that. We got it. Thank you. Bye-bye. I'll talk to you in a bit.
I got some foot longs and I cut them up. They have them cut up, so. Did you guys go get something to eat?
We have some leftovers in our room.
Some leftovers in the room. You want some of the sandwiches?
You never have any of it.
Huh? What was that?
Later.
Thank you.
Let me see what happened with,
Are we gonna have chairs up there? How are we gonna get set up with the panel?
with what?
Are we gonna have chairs up there?
Yeah.
You ready for your part of D&D?
How are you rearranging the program for the afternoon, Steve?
I don't know.
I mean, Brenda's downstairs and nobody's down there. We're supposed to be sending her some folks to look at her good while they came to the event.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Rosetta, did you see Brenda's clothes downstairs? Brenda's on the first floor.
We saw, she was on the elevator and we were coming up.
You saw the racks?
Yeah, we saw the rack.
Okay.
Now Brenda, who is Brenda now?
Brenda is Alabama, Birmingham.
What's her first full name?
Brenda Ward. She's Alabama. Jimmy's place.
Okay. Is she the only one down there with the booth?
Mm-mm.
You got some more? How many more people? 2 more? 3 also?
Some up here, yeah.
What's in the others downstairs? Other than what you Brenda?
Like that, t-shirt, my cousin, them. That was Christmas.
Did your father ever come?
He got her.
Oh, really? Who did he with? I wanna see who produced you.
He raised me.
Oh, he raised you? Is that your real father?
He's not your father, not my biological father.
He is your biological father?
No.
Oh, okay. This is just your brother.
No, he raised me.
Okay.
Because
You made some fresh coffee.
Because what?
because you have to know my mom.
Okay.
You know, my biological father died in 2014.
I'm glad I finally got a chance to meet Ray.
My uncle, died the same day Doc's funeral.
Oh, really? It was your what name?
My biological uncle. Yeah. Now, here's the thing about my biological uncle, right? You don't know. My biological uncle funded Curtis Faulkner and Fofos Juneteenth. He was the first black city manager in major town in Texas.
You said your uncle.
Yeah, Uncle Bob.
He funded what?
Your Juneteenth. They built a statue to my Uncle Bob in Fort Worth before he was dead.
I'm trying to get the connection to your uncle Bob.
My Uncle Bob.
And the one that funded
Juneteenth.
Juneteenth where?
Fort Worth.
Fort Worth.
You ever get your barbecue grill, Steve?
No, I haven't. He's still out there waiting on me.
So then where is he?
He passed away.
He passed it on the same day as Doc Ford. Okay,
My dad died. I had the service for him on Juneteenth in 2014. Because I told Doc, I said, I can't make it this year. My dad died.
This is your biological father.
My biological father. When my biological father died, he never even talked about stuff that he did, right? So let me tell you who was in the audience of my biological father when he died, okay? Gail Sayers was in front row. He was like, Gail Sayers, and your dad got me through college, and my uncle Bob was my roommate.
Now this is your biological father.
In Chicago, where did you say come from?
Huh?
Where was Gail Sayers from?
Yeah, he was from Illinois, but he went to KU,
Oh,
Kansas University.
Yeah, well, so you can do. Yeah, people-
Johnny Cochran's daughter, who I knew, right? I'm like, our dads knew each other?
I knew Johnny Cochran had a daughter. I knew he had a son.
Well, I knew Johnny Cochran in California. When he was back to college.
I knew
We're sitting there playing the songs that my dad like never would have made it, right? Marvin Sapp. The door busts open, it's Marvin Sapp. He shows up and starts singing. Talking about your dad, man. You know who your dad was
What
to
was
me?
your daddy's name?
Joe Terrell.
Joe Terrell. Well, he was, I think I have heard of Joe Terrell.
I used to call him the ultimate capper.
The what?
The ultimate capper.
Okay, I see that name
He was a
somewhere.
pole mark. He was a pole mark at the Capitol for years.
Well, I've heard his name, Joe Terrell.
Y'all done messed around and got that subway.
Oh, I forgot my, you dropped it. I dropped, thank you.
How y'all doing?
I done got home looking for this thing and my feelings would have been truly hurt. Just the thing for Miss Open when we did the walk, because I left mine on the box.
Where did your father live, Joe Terrell?
Thanks so much, Steve.
You're welcome.
Good
St.
looking out.
Louis, Kansas City. He's from Mississippi.
I have some salad. I haven't been in it.
When you go to Fort Worth, they have a cattle drive. You drive cattle through the middle of downtown Fort Worth. That was my uncle. He brought that back. He brought it back to commemorate the black cowboys.
Is that his name, Joe Terrell?
Bob Terrell, my uncle. My dad's name is Joe Terrell. So the original cowboys were black, and they used to come from Fort Worth and go to Kansas City through Oklahoma.
Wait, I know.
First stop was Honey Springs. That's where they started doing the barbecue at. That's where it came from. So my uncle redid the cattle drive through Fort Worth to commemorate the black cowboys. He did that back in the 90s.
1990.
Yeah.
Okay, I used to live in Dallas, so I know all about Fort Worth.
Children Fair runs that street through the home.
Mm-hmm.
The what?
Children Fair.
Chisholm Trail.
I lived in Dallas, Fort Worth, for about 20-some years. So I know.
Well, my uncle was the first black city manager of a major town in Fort Worth, all through the 90s.
What's
And
his
then-
name?
Bob Terrell.
Well, that's where I know his name. That's where I know, because I said I lived down there.
That's my dog. And when the tornado came through Fort Worth, right after the election, the famous clip of my uncle standing there with Bill Clinton on one side and George Bush on the other side, and he simply told them, both of y'all go to hell. I don't need your help. I'll refix it myself and retire. Which is what he did. They both showed up trying to get him to push behind him. He said, I don't want either one of you.
Did y'all get something to eat?
Mm-hmm. We had some snacks, we had leftovers.
We got barbecue.
Oh, from yesterday?
So we had some barbecue.
Yeah,
We
still,
do have
I do have a little bit left, but, that would have to be by midnight.
No, I still have some left, but,
And you take it, right?
Penny,
Kenny,
yes.
Kenny, you dynamic about up there with your presentation.
Oh, thank you. I wanted to get into it more. Actually, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a systems administrator, but I train on our products and I go to different client sites and I implement
What
it.
product?
It's a proprietary software used in the aviation industry for situational awareness. So we know where the planes are. And when they can't see them, they call me and bug me.
But it's so going to air traffic control.
Oh, which
What you
airport?
did there,
Which airport do you work out of?
he worked with three of them, he worked with one of the largest ones in LAX.
Okay.
He worked in Kansas City. But anyway,
Yeah.
at airport.
Okay, great. Yeah, out there where D is,
Pastries.
the Las Vegas
Actually,
one,
there
they
is, and this
have,
Somebody
a
gave-
flight to leave out
order
and
varies
one
from
to
Opal's birthday.
land every
So
minute,
she's been asking us to-
24/7. But they're slowed down a little bit now because of COVID. Everything.
We already have hers.
at one point,
You're so sweet.
But you know what? But that's what they get.
She's fine. As long as I can keep her
Y'all
from
bring
eating
up
stuff to,
everybody.
sugar diverticulitis,
They get-
you know.
we have hired OU to do the rest of
Oh, yeah, you know, bring me mine. Thank you, sweetie.
I don't know if you ladies, this Opal was given, chocolate covered strawberries for her birthday. She told me to give you guys.
Thank you.
And then, who made it?
Sherry's berry.
That's a pretty cool thing.
Berry.
Cherry berry.
Were you that downstairs when I gave, Bettina, I gave her a box of
Who she
Vaseline
said, so I am,
from us.
And tell her we said thank
well,
you.
she
Yeah.
is down a little
I
bit.
brought a box in
She's
with me.
sleeping off her neck bones and black eyed peas.
Oh,
And
where'd you get leg bones to Black Eyed Peas?
the best place here, is called, and that's gonna be closed tomorrow. Unless you go to, Four-Way Grill.
Yeah.
That's what we were trying to think of.
Oh, my goodness. Does that sound like a meal
Oh, I
right
mean, the
there?
catfish was, and the pork chops, and wait a minute, they had chitlins. And she said, can I have some chitlins? I said, you really gonna eat chitlins this time of year? She says, they cook, ain't they? I said, okay.